Good morning, everyone. We are here for something a bit different today. We're going to try a chess variance website called Pychess-variance. I'm going to post the link to the website down the bottom of the screen and also in the chat. So when we start playing the games, you'll also see the website down the bottom of the screen, but it is posted in the chat. And my opponent today is going to be JarlCarlander, and he's just in the lobby waiting for me to post a challenge. So, here he is in the chat. G'day Jarl, how you going? So how do we do this? I guess I will... I'm just checking the mic, it doesn't seem to be working. I guess you can't hear me. Tell me if you can. Oh yeah, it is. It does appear to be working now. Okay, so how do we do this? So I go create game. crazyhouse960. Let's say 5+5. Shall we play a Reddit game? I've never played a Reddit game on this site. I'm just gonna post a challenge to the lobby, and then anyone can accept. And I guess if you're the first one, then a game starts. So, yeah, it is posted down the bottom of the screen, but not in the browser display where you see the full window. So, just waiting for Jarl to accept the challenge. The stream title is crazyhouse960 and other variants with JarlCarlander on Pychess. And you can see up there, Mugwort is the first challenge, so I'm logged in as Mugwort, same as my Chess account. So on this website, you can see when you go create a game, there's all kinds of variants in the drop-down list, like chess. I guess chess is a form of chess. Placement, Situyin, Cambodian, Makruk, which is a Thai form of chess, I believe. Shogi, Japanese chess, Shangqi, which is Chinese chess. Seirawan capahouse, a combination of Seirawan and crazyhouse, grand chess, gothic chess. Shako, I've never heard of this one. Shako. Hey, GB Tummy. Must be a bit late for you, about 1 in the morning, I would guess. So I've posted crazyhouse960 challenge to the lobby, just waiting for someone to accept. And I don't know much about the Oriental old forms of chess, like the ones I mentioned before, like the Cambodian, the Chinese, Japanese. I don't know a lot about that. I don't even know how to read the characters. Don't know the piece names or the piece movements or anything like this. So probably best on the stream to stick with what I do now. So looking to start a crazyhouse960 game. In fact, the only crazyhouse960 that I remember playing, apart from a few games here with Fairy Stockfish, is a match which was on stream with John Lee, and I think he whooped me something like 8-0, but it was literally the first games in my life I've ever tried 960, and there is a bit of a learning curve because you gotta watch out for long diagonals and so on right from move 1. Just gonna shut the door behind me. So is Jarl still there? Has he gone for a break already? Does anyone want to accept the challenge? You can play a casual game if you want. It's just I don't even have a rating on this website. And where are the ratings? I think you go to players.
Ready.
And then you can see all the different variants of chess now have ratings, a rating list. and some of course don't even have rated players yet. So we've started a game. I'm just checking out the display because it's in browser mode. I can zoom in a little bit. Here we go. So let me just get the bearings on the position for the moment. I haven't played this in quite a while. Jarl started with b4, and I can see that g7 is protected, so there's no need to worry there. Be good to open the bishops. I'd like to play e5, but the queen is attacking e5. What else? I think it is good. Yeah, for some reason I thought the mic wasn't working, but I think it's all good. How to open the queen or open the bishop? Maybe go d5 on the first move. I think it's good to open these bishops as fast as possible and put pawns in the center of the board if that's possible without dropping the pawns for free. So perhaps knight f6. It'll be a little bit hard to play e5, so just a bit more slowly with knight f6 and e6. So I wonder if moving the b pawn is the only reasonable way to open up these pieces here, the rook and the queen, or whether that's even so important in the opening. So playing with zero knowledge, zero preparation, zero theory. It's just all about what you can come up with in the moment. And typically a 960 is played at a blitz time control. I'm just going to play a5 to try and provoke b5, because although some people are more interested, I guess, in faster time controls, it's very difficult to play a decent game in Crazy House 960. As it would be in standard chess to play a 1-0 game of 960. So knight b6 or knight d6? Even thinking about pushing the pawn further to a4, just to try and isolate this pawn. Now that happens in some chess openings, like the Ruy Lopez with black. Actually, no, I'm thinking of the anti-Marshall, where white is the one to push a4 and a5 and isolate black's pawn on b4. Well, it's a similar sort of idea. So d3 does stop queen a5, try to pinch the pawn on b5. I want to keep the pawn here for the moment, although potentially a3 could be good if another pawn is in hand, but it does allow knight b3. Well, actually that blocks off the rook from defending the pawn on b5. So a3 is a consideration, but how can I hunt down this pawn? What about just knight d6? I'm not sure how Jarl is going to guard it. I guess he can play b6. And then I have to be careful if I want to push the c pawn, because then as soon as he gets a pawn in hand, then pawn at c7 becomes very dangerous. I could trade the pawn and rook takes, and then possibly push a3. So he's going for an attack on f6. Also opening the way to castles, so if you're not sure about the castling rules, then it's the same as chess 960 in that you put your king on top of your rook and the king ends up on g1, or put your king on top of your rook the other way and your king ends up on c1. Of course, the knight has to move out of the way first. Otherwise, normal castling rules apply. I think the white king is pretty safe after castles, but in the meantime I do have to worry about bishop takes f6 check. So knight g4, he's just going to castle, so I think I'll just play bishop e7 without too much of a second thought. It's a late morning here in Sydney, about 11 AM. I just went out to get a coffee and a bread roll, because as I was telling Jarl, I'm a late riser on a Sunday morning. Actually, I did a late night stream just watching a match in the Crazy House Team League on Chess. That was about 1 AM Saturday night. Sunday morning. Okay, knight e5. I do have f7 very well covered. And I'm wondering if it's safe to pick off this pawn. So I guess he's intending rook takes, bishop takes, and knight takes f7. So, what does that leave us? Bishop takes leads to a similar fate. I could play a move like rook f8, but that way there's no castling kingside. I could even castle queenside right now. I'm not sure whether that really resolves the situation with the weakness on f7 if I want to take the pawn on b5. Perhaps just a little waiting move like queen a7 and trying to stop him pushing b6. Also, well, I mean, he has to respond to the threat on f2. If bishop d4, I was intending queen a5. Well, that's not very exciting if the bishop comes back to c3. Well, I have an idea in mind to avoid a repetition. But he's gone for e3 instead. How am I going to surround and round up this pawn? I'm not so sure about castling queenside. Queen b6, and then bishop takes. And still I have to deal with bishop d4 coming. I would like to exchange off this knight on e5. It's white's best placed piece at the moment. Knight d7 doesn't really help because in this game, of course, you can always replace pieces. Have we not had a single trade yet? We haven't had a single trade. So I guess if you're not aware of the variant, and maybe you're watching later because I'll put it on YouTube, then it looks like a normal game of chess 960 at the moment. What about trying to open the h-file this way, h5, h4? Because I don't think I'm going to be castling kingside anytime soon. Also, I have an idea to play knight g4 to exchange the knights, and then the pawn is creeping a little closer to the white kingside. So I got to be careful though, because g7 is going to be hanging after the knight trade. So Jarl is trying to be careful and cover all his weaknesses on the king side, especially f2. I guess the other thing is I'm trying to discourage him from castling. He's gone rook b4. So that's an interesting way to cover the whole fourth rank. Somehow the board is a little bit bigger than I'm used to, because it almost seems like there's 10 files, but there are actually only 8 files. Somehow that seems like a long way from b4 over to h4. So yeah, c5 allows en passant. I don't like that. Yeah, I want to do something about this pawn on f7, because I'm kind of desperate to take that pawn on b5. Still don't exactly see how it's going to happen without dropping f7. So again, no really obvious moves. Getting a little low on time, so I just better make a move. I'm going to play a prophylactic king c8 instead of castles queenside. So the rook, yeah, I'm not sure. It's okay. I don't need more time. I'll build it up eventually when I get low. I'm not sure whether the rook was more useful here or on d8 after castles. And I was actually intending king c8, not castles queenside. But yeah, the king kind of feels a bit alone with only the queen defending on a7 if I end up castling. Ah, Pepello, thanks for the raid. 14 raiders have joined. So we have a very unique and interesting match here. Unusual match because we are not on Chess, we are on Pychess. And we're playing a game of crazyhouse960. So where the pieces get shuffled on the back row. Thanks for the follow. How do I say that? IMC Jebs. Gatask is here too. Hey Pepello and all the raiders. The raiders of the Lost Chess. Yeah, crazyhouse960. So we've only played 10 moves so far. I had the option to castle queenside last move, but I chose king c8 instead, and it wasn't a slip where I thought I would castle, because I know your king is meant to land on top of your rook in all 960 variants in order to castle. So if Jarl wants to castle here, he would pick up his king and stick it on the rook on h1, but the king ends up on g1, same as normal chess, and same as 960. Queen b1. Alright, so I've got to try and build up some time on the clock. I'm going to go queen c4. That wasn't such a great idea, because bishop d4 traps the queen, but I can pick up a rook and a pawn, and in Crazy House it's not too bad. Pepello says 10 moves, still alive in crazyhouse960. So the idea is I have so many pieces on b5 that I can sack the queen for the pawn, perhaps take with the bishop, or take with the knight is also okay. So this is the intention, picking up a pawn and a queen. Actually, knight takes, I realize, may not be the best idea, because he can counter second, then knight at a7 check. It looks very dangerous, so if he sacks the queen for the bishop, then the knight, you can see, covers d7. Alright, just gotta watch the time, because playing 5+5 in 960 Crazy House, your time just evaporates. Here we go, we have a deflection. Knight takes f7. Probably should be taking this one and then work out how to defend d7 a little bit better. So for instance, pawn at c6 may be possible. It's probably a good idea just to put a few pieces on to cover a rook at b4 perhaps. I've got to start dropping these pieces back on the board and think about what to do with the knight in hand. So Jarl's played a pretty solid game with white in the first game here. Queen a7, could be some potential queen sacks. I'm not so worried about it at the moment, just stick the knight back on. Hoping to trap the queen, but I can't quite see it at the moment. Queen a5, I guess. I wonder, oh, no, he's gone this way. So, I see. I'm going to take with the g-pawn, and that helps to cover the c5 square in case he wants to drop the pawn on d7 first and then knight at c5 check.
Check.
Yeah, what am I missing? I think I'm okay. I mean, I left the
Check.
bishop here on purpose. Knight at c3 check. I'd rather put the bishop on and defend the rook. I don't think knight at c3 is going anywhere. Alright, now do we have a queen trap? I think we do. The question is, how is he going to sack his queen? So with no more knights in hand, I feel quite safe. Perhaps just knight at e5 to stop the check here. If he goes queen f6, I don't see any threats, so I'm okay with this one. All the pieces defending each other. Yeah, it's hard to know the best way to sack the queen. Knight takes is possible, just pawn takes also looks fine.
Check.
Yeah, knight takes queen,
Check.
He's only got to check. King c7, there is a bishop at... but that's okay, I'll allow this one because knight c3 is very dangerous in response. Knight to c3. Check, I can even pick up the knight here if I want. So, two queens in hand. I would really like a knight for c3. But pawn at c3 also looks very strong. Now bishop at a5 though. Could be a bit of an issue. I mean, I think I'm always safe on d7. It's either rook b1 or take the bishop. Probably take the bishop. I'm not afraid of a double check. King is going to be safe on d7, as I said before.
Check.
Yeah, if
Check.
he goes back this way, king e7 is very safe. And you notice there's no more knights for g6. So bishop takes b4, covering knight c3 check. Can I do this with two queens or with check? Let's see. Queen at e1 gets nowhere, so I assume I should just take this. No more castling for Jarl. Queen at a1 check. This really should be a mate in a few if I don't botch it. Bishop at b1, should I just take and go knight at a3 check? I'm sure that's good enough. Ah, it doesn't let me pre-drop a piece. So I have to pick up the piece again a second time. Alright, but I can pre-move. Knight takes a3 check. Yeah. That is a good move. Knight takes c2. He's given me more time. I guess I should give him more time. I wasn't asking for it though. Bishop at a3 check looks... Or bishop at c3. I think either one, because if he takes here, there's queen at a3 check. And knight takes c3 in case I need it. What's the best way to go about this? The knight on c2 is kind of in the way. Yeah, because he may be able to hide on b1 and then king takes c2 if the knight's on c3. And then the other knight will be in the way. But bishop at is even worse because king takes c2. So, unless there's a really tricky move that I'm missing, I think probably just queen at a3 check. So I've got to be careful if he ever gets the checks on d7 and if he has a knight in hand for g6. Because I may end up losing the checks. I think I've stuffed this up already. But there we go. Knight takes c3 check. King takes c2. The only check I see is queen takes a2. I'm not entirely sure whether there's a mating sequence. So I could go bishop at b3 next. King takes knight, bishop. Bishop at d2. Is that?
Check.
Bishop at d2. Rook takes. 2 pawns left. Pawn at b4. Or should I just go bishop at a5? Or even bishop at e5. Oh, so many choices. Start with pawn at b4 check. Yeah, so if he goes to d4, there's a queen coming in from behind. And there's also queen e5, so like this. If he goes to d4, if he goes here, I just take the rook with check, and if he goes this way, then bishop at a5 is mate in 1. So it looks like I got all the options covered. Yeah, he's resigned. And I hope Jarl doesn't believe me, because I did say a bit of nonsense there during that game, so make sure you don't just believe everything I say. Let's do a rematch. Switch colors. So yeah, I was trying to trap that queen after I sacked mine on b5 for a pawn and a rook. So maybe a bit of a dodgy sack, but it turned out in the end. So we have the same position. Is the way it works, you get the same position twice in a row and then you switch on the third game, on the odd numbered games. So Jarl went b4 on the first move, trying to open up his queen. Ha! He says he'll mute my stream so he's not tempted to do my moves, and I'm sure I made lots of mistakes in the commentary, so yeah, certainly don't believe everything I say. If I play e4, how do I defend it on the next move? Where does the light square bishop belong? That's a difficult question to answer right now. I have no idea. Perhaps I start with d4. I think b4 is okay on move 1. It's a bit unclear if the opponent goes b5 where the light square bishop belongs. On Pychess, I believe, says Katask, it's the same position every time. Really? If you keep rematching infinitely, it's the same position. And you have to get out of the rematch and post a challenge in the forum again. So let's do something a bit different this time. I'm going to play bishop a5. And I have no idea whether this is a good move or not. No particular idea. Just pointing at the king. I mean, I assume he'll play knight b6 and possibly try and chase it away with knight c4. Yeah, so GB Tami, the developer, is saying you have to go back to the lobby for a new position. Well, that's easy enough to do. Is it worthwhile stopping knight c4? Perhaps just e3? Although this is interesting, if he goes knight c4, take, there's the other option of queen takes g2. And then it's a little unclear. Do I play knight at g3 and save the rook and just let him take the bishop? So perhaps move the bishop back was better after knight c4. So he's gone d6. Already, I'm sorry to say I'm out of book on move 3, Katask. The finishers developed a 960 book up to 10 moves deep in every position. I don't know, just knight f3 blocks out the queen so the bishop is free to move. It's interesting when you play some of the variants on Lichess like Racing Kings, how deep the openings book goes. Like if you analyze your game and then you realize somebody else has played this game even 12 or 14 or 16 moves deep. So I wonder if there'll be something similar here on Pychess where you can like have an openings tree and a database. I'm not sure whether that's been implemented or whether there's any plans. Okay, so assuming knight e4 is coming again, or knight g4, I've got to prepare to defend f2. So it's either knight d3 or bishop moves and then castles kingside. And in that case, where does the bishop belong? e2 or d3? I'm going to go bishop d3 this time because then I'm intending to answer knight g4 with... Do you call this long castles? It seems like a long castles to me, even though the notation is probably 0-0. Yeah, here we go. So it feels like a long castle to me. And of course it could be even longer if the king started on b1. And rook on a1. So without knowing too much about how the site works, I'm assuming that all 960 positions are possible and it's just the same random generator as normal chess. And I guess that even includes the original Crazy House position. Okay, so this knight, where's its best square? g3 doesn't seem to do much because of the pawn on g6. What else can I do? The knight does cover the pawn breaks like a4 and c4. Where would I like this knight to be? I don't really know at the moment. f4, what does it do on f4? Well, what is the knight's future? I mean, typically here you're looking to come in via h6, but then I have no pieces anywhere near h6. So this is a good move, bishop c6. Not quite sure how to answer that one. I suppose knight g5 with the tempo and then f3. And then the knight can come back this way via h3. I mean, knight h4 looks a bit suspicious. Yeah, I got to be careful if he takes on g2 and then tries to take the knight back via h8, and then he's threatening knight at h3, also threatening the rook on f1. But do I have any choice at the moment? I don't like knight e1 on knight h4. I guess e4 is a way to sack a pawn and then stick a knight back on g5, something like this, but I really don't like that. I guess I could trade on b6 and then knight at g5. Yeah, I'm going to do it that way. You still could answer bishop takes f3, that would be interesting. It's probably what you do in a 1-0 game. Bishop takes f3. So we have some symbols on the right hand side of the screen. So that's the hawk and the elephant, which are in S chess and also in S house, where you combine the variants together. Crazy house and S chess with the extra pieces. And of course the dice at the top right indicates the randomness of 960. So he's taken back with the rook, and the idea was to go knight at g5 with a tempo, assuming black will castle long. And again, I'm just going to call it castle long, even though in regular chess you would say that's castling short. So then think about what to do to defend f3 and g2. Yeah, the queen is a bit stuck, buried over here on a1. How to meet black on this diagonal? Yeah, because h6 is coming next, and I just don't have a good answer at the moment. And again, I'm even thinking of a move like e4 just to give a pawn back and make a bit of space. But then h6... This is a bit of a scary position. I might end up having to sack a knight, maybe on f7. What about just knight f4 and knight takes f7? Plunge the knight in. At least then there's some hope of a counterattack. If he trades a lot of pieces on f3, for example. So bishop at h6. I think it was wise to avoid h6 because it also weakens the g6 square. So what happens on take, knight takes g2. I'm still desperate to block out this diagonal, but I just don't see a way. What about knight 4 h3? A bit of a strange looking move, but it's an attempt to fortify the weaker square on f3. And if I have time, I'll play rook b e1 and then think about going e4 if it's possible. If I have enough pieces defending. So I wonder whether he's going to lodge a piece in on e4. Or trade a few times. Could even think about sacking the queen on f3. Maybe not so good. Alright, so we have a very sharp line where he's offering a pawn, but he gets back g2. I really don't want to allow this. The threat is to play e4. And again, I do not see an easy move for white. So I may have to shed some material. Well, I could step back bishop e2, I suppose. And then if he goes to e4, at least in the short term, it's blocking out the long diagonal, and then the knight can step back to d2. So I'm going to answer e4 with knight d2. Pawn takes with pawn takes. His pawn at g4. Yeah, couldn't do much about that one. So I have to hope for a counterattack. Which knight is he going for? Not entirely sure, but let's try pawn at e6. So it turns out this b4 move is quite useful in the opening and bringing the bishop to c3. Especially after I've committed to long castling. It was probably a mistake already to castle so early. Alright, don't see much else apart from knight takes here. I guess he's going to take on h3. I can try and... okay. Yeah, I don't see a lot of options. I'll just take here and make him sack the queen.
Check.
Oh, no. Bishop at f5. I guess you do call that a fork. What to do? Yeah, I don't see a move. Sometimes it gets a bit stuck when I go to drag the piece. Yeah, not a lot of choice. He's picking up 2 knights. And black completely safe. So this has been a, what do you call it? A shamozzle. A shamozzle. Total disaster opening. Yeah, bishop a5 I guess was pretty meaningless in the opening after knight b6. I was actually thinking about starting f3 and e4 on the first 2 moves. Because my first question is if I play one e4, how do I defend the pawn on e4? I'm not sure if he's trying to look for a forced mate, but there's no need to do that. Yeah, I just got to practice picking up this piece quickly, because sometimes, maybe it's if the mouse has clicked on the board and then sometimes it just doesn't pick up the piece on the first attempt. So pawn at e3, that's unexpected. I guess I should defend f2. Okay, build the time up to 10 seconds. How much material am I down? A rook, a bishop, and possibly a knight. What? I'm gonna take that one. He's somehow allowed me some counterplay, which he never should have done. Yeah, this is a bit difficult though. Maybe bishop at g3. Yeah, I'm not sure whether to cover the light squares or the dark squares. Yeah, knight at e7 check really does nothing at the moment. I've always got pawn at g2 if needed. Actually, I will throw in the check. Just hopefully it'll make him think when I go knight takes f8. Yeah. So yeah, pawn at g2. Okay, he's taken that back. Don't really see much. How do I even save the knight? Yikes! Seriously, the knight has no squares? Maybe it was all part of the plan. I mean, he could have taken knight on e6 with the bishop a long time ago. Any hope of counterplay here? What about queen f1? That does help to guard the squares f2 and g2, which are the weakest. So he can either pick up the knight. No, he's saved it. I still can't even see a way to save. Surely I can do something with the pawn. Pawn at g4. Does it trap the rook? No, he's randomly trapping my pieces, but I can't even set up a trap. Pawn at e4. No, take this one. I'm gonna allow bishop takes rook, because g2 is really the square I need to cover. Make him sack the piece. Yeah. Not sure which piece he's going to sack. Probably the bishop will be best for him to sack. Yeah. Bishop f2, bishop h4. I don't know. I have no ideas. Ah, yeah, there we go. It's not picking up the piece on the first attempt. Instead, it's somehow dragging the text, the cursor over the text. It's a bit awkward when you're low on time. Queen
Check.
takes queen. So what do we need here? We need a pawn or a knight. What about queen at f7? It's one of those nasty moves with potential threats in all directions. Oh, all these pieces are covered. A rook would be good for g8. Two rooks don't even go close to mating though. I really need a pawn or a knight. It's a bit hard to know what to do with black here because he can't allow a knight at f7. Just bring the queen back to say f7, or e6 is also good because the bishops are defending each other. Yep. Ooh, very tempting to sack, but I still don't quite see it. Maybe a rook at h3, pinning this, threatening queen takes e3. Okay, that didn't work. Sack the rook anyway. I don't know what's going on. Yeah, bishop at f4. It's still not a mate threat because g takes f. Ah, he's covering. I'm going to come all the way back. Yeah, he's covering f7, that's the problem. Queen takes, oh, there could be some knight d5. So my position is suddenly not too bad because the king is very safe. It may be a very long game. Well, that is a good move. Yeah, and once the knight covers f7, I have no way in. Yep. And he is all of a sudden making some threats on e3, d2, f2. Yeah, I don't know. Don't really have any answers at the moment to all the pawn drops. Take on f6 still doesn't get anywhere. Yeah, that happened all of a sudden. Not sure what I could have done. Maybe I should have sacked the queen a bit earlier. That's just a random move which does nothing. He's got too much defense on the back rank. Yep, I have no idea what to do. Pawn at g3. Pawn at e4. I don't know. These queens only keep me safe in the short term, but I really don't have any attack in the long term. Knight at... Again, I have no ideas. I just can't get in here. Look at it. All the rooks defending g7 and f7. Picking up the pieces. Yeah, I don't know what to do. I have no moves left. So at one point in the game I thought I was back in it, but maybe I should have sacked on f6 with the queen just to force the king out when I had the chance. But I think that chance is long gone. So the pieces are all misplaced. Yeah, that's more like it, Jarl. That's more like it, because I have no possible way to guard g2. Just losing too much material. Well, okay, if he wants to put a knight on g2, I guess he can survive a little bit longer. He's trying hard not to mate me. Now what to do with the bishop? Bishop at e8. Yeah, still not sure what my opponent is doing. He should be clearing this knight out of the way as fast as possible. Uh-oh, now there's serious trouble. Pawn at g2 coming. No. Bishop takes h3. Takes e1. Uh-oh, get rid of the pawn. Stick the pawn back on g2. Still surviving. Don't know how, but I'm still surviving. Here we go. Pawn at c2, rook at c1, or could I even take this knight? So far for getting into this king still. Yeah, pawn at f2, good move.
Check.
It's going to have to defend very passively with knight at f1. It's a nice trick, but still not good enough to come back into the game, opening up the bishop to defend f1.
Check.
Yep, that's it. Uh-oh, queen g2. So if pawn at f2, I have to cover g1, but that seems rather unlikely. That is a deadly move. I might have to call it quits. Alright, any move to survive. Yes, very funny game, but I think, yeah, bishop at d2 is too strong on the next move.
Check.
So I have no choice there. Knight takes queen. He has too many queens.
Check.
Still no forced mate that I can see, because he needs a knight for g1, f2 or g5. Oh, actually there is a forced mate. Yeah, just take on g2 and then queen here, bishop here. Okay. Threatening on h4.
Check.
Yeah, even if he took on g3, I'm just totally
Check.
dead. Too many queens. Well done. Finally, 77
Check.
moves.
You lose.
77 moves. Now that should have been over. Let's see. Where was I about to resign? Where was I about to resign? I don't know. Yeah, that's okay. Take a quick break. That's fine. I'm just having a quick look where I thought the turning point was. I mean, rook c8 is a pretty useless move because I really need another knight for c6 to make any use, or I need a square for the knight to come back to allow the pawn at e7, but funnily enough there is no move with the knight, and that was one of my big problems, apart from being down a lot of material. So I thought, when I got in the move pawn at e7, I'm starting to come back into the game, because I was looking at f takes e7, queen takes c8, and then a move like bishop at d8 to threaten the rook and also threaten promotion. I think that was interesting, but maybe I could do more with the queen in hand, but I could possibly wait and try and pick up a pawn first for g7. The reason I thought I was back in the game at this stage is because he has 3 knights in hand, and he can't really afford to exchange or drop any knights at the moment because knight at f7 is so dangerous. So I thought, yeah, just put a queen on, and then I have ideas of sacrificing on h7 at the right time. But yeah, he's allowed me to pick up the rook for free, and the material imbalance is actually a queen for a bishop and 2 knights, which is still not enough material for white. But again, the knights are the problem. He can't just start dropping knights everywhere because knight at f7 is a mate in 1. Not so easy to play for black. So well, maybe knight at d8 is okay. Shall we switch position then? So the way to do that is to go back to the lobby and to seek another game. So this will randomize the starting position again. So yeah, just waiting for someone. I've only played 2 rated games. My rating is now 1300, which is pretty appropriate after the last game. Where are we? Okay, so I've taken the white pieces this time. It doesn't necessarily switch colors when you Go back to the lobby. So the queen on f1, the bishop tucked away in the corner, and a bit of a target here on b7 and b2. They're the first things I notice, so I'm going to go g4. Probably knight c6 is a good response. And of course if I take, he has to take with the d-pawn, otherwise it's a helpmate in 3. c6, alright. So leaving the knight stuck on b8, I guess he wants to play d5. So should I go c4, just to try and prevent black playing d5 on the next move? And if the knight comes out this way, there are some weak pawns here on a2 and b2 to watch for. And after g4, I'm not sure what I should be doing with my king. I learned a bit of a lesson last game not to put your king in on a long diagonal like this. So yeah, perhaps the king will just stay in the center for a little while. So g4 and c4. I guess one of the ideas is to play knight b4 and try and steal a pawn early. But I can also do the same. Try for knight a5, knight b7. Also looking at ideas to bring the queen out early via h3, because this h-pawn is unprotected, and it might force him to go h6. But more urgently, I'm just wondering how black is going to defend the weakness on b7. So it's either rook b8 or rook c7 or castle queenside. The knight's not going to be secure on c5. So knight a5, rook b8, okay. That seems perfectly decent. And I'm going to go queen h3 just because I can. There's nothing wrong with hitting a pawn with tempo. And just trying to limit black's pieces on the queen side. Perhaps, oh, he's allowed queen takes h7. Alright, so what happens? B takes. I suppose I could grab 2 pawns for a knight, but then there's no real benefit when he's got knight b4 coming in. So should I just come back? Any other tricky options? I don't want to open the b file for the rook, so we just come back. The knight has served its purpose to make him play rook b8. I'm not sure how useful that will end up being. Alright, so what happens after queen takes h7? What's his plan? Bishop takes b2. So I should be defending either via d4 or knight c3. Any drawbacks to d4? It is protected. He could attack again via knight e6. Then let's say e3 or bishop c3. Knight g5 does defend and attack at the same time in that case. I'll probably queen g3 then, and then try and hit the rook. Oh, it is defended by the knight on a6, but try and tie his pieces down a little. Knight c3 also seems quite decent. So would I rather bring the knight forwards or open up the bishop and control more squares in the center? I'm going to go d4 because it also helps to stop knight c5. And expecting knight e6 and possibly knight g5. So knight e6 I could take here, allow knight takes d4. Knight takes, bishop takes. What do I have then? pawn and knight in hand. Yeah, still got to watch out for the undefended pawn on b2. Yeah, I'm not sure whether it's worthwhile opening up the bishop like this. Just defend with e3. So, good to see a few people in the chat. I wasn't quite sure if anyone would even be aware of the stream, because it's obviously not on the main Lichess page. So h5, what happens here? G takes, rook takes, queen takes. Have the option to pick up a pawn with queen takes h5, but then what does he have? Rook and a pawn. Is the queen going to come down to g1? Will he play rook at g1? How do I defend the bishop? Is it worth giving control of the first rank to my opponent just to take a pawn? These are all questions I have to ask myself. I could play more positionally, I guess, with g5. And try and shut out the rook for most of the game. Let's have another look at g takes. G takes. Rook takes, queen takes. I could think about starting with rook at g3, for example. But then he can defend with queen h7. And then this diagonal is wide open. Anyway, I think this is more exciting. It may not be the best move, but it'll be more exciting to have an open game. GB, tell me you need some sleep. Must be pretty late for you now, but yeah, thanks for watching. I'll keep going for a little while as long as I have opponents. Happy to keep going. So good night, GB, tell me. G takes. Yeah, I don't have a lot of options here. Right, so do we put the rook back on g3 or just grab the pawn and relinquish? I think I should be putting the rook back, because if queen takes, also rook at g5 comes with tempo on the queen. I think rook at g1 is just a good move for black, because then he also has access to g2 to drop a pawn in future, with threats of rook takes e1 check and promote with check. Yeah, so as expected, queen h7. And now we start looking for new ideas. So I do have knight b4 covered by the bishop now on e1. So that's not a worry. Pawn at c2 is nothing special. Should I attack the pawn on h5 via bishop f3? Yeah, so idea is to use the pin here while it lasts, and that means he can't play pawn at g4 because of bishop takes. And just keeping this pawn in hand because I'm not quite sure if ever I'm going to be able to put it on g7. It is, of course, one idea to try and gain control over g7. So he's keeping the rook in hand. Pawn at a4. What is the idea? He wants me to block the bishop and then come in with the knight. Otherwise, take. He's going to have some knight at a2 perhaps. And if I step back to a1, is it so terrible? Is it really so terrible? Ah, there's d4. d4 hangs. Yeah, well, maybe just allow knight at a2 then and go for some counterattack. Yeah, I'm gonna trade queens. So allowing a takes b4. A takes b3, a takes b3. Still d4 is loose. But a knight doesn't immediately do anything. Rook at h6. Queen doesn't have anywhere to swing across on the 5th rank. So just queen g5 for now. Take here, I'm just prepared to take it back. Because I can't allow the threat of pawn at c2 in future with the queen open. And so what else is happening? He could potentially go knight at b4 with the knight in hand. I'm still worried about knight at a2. And this is a diagonal I'd really like to block out. And again, I'm looking at moves like pawn at g7. I still think I need to take this pawn first though, because otherwise b takes a2 or a potential threat to drop on c2 in case he picks up another pawn. Would be good if the rook could cover b3, but I guess it's too late for that. Also be good if the bishop could come to e4, but that's not happening either. I've just got to
lose.
Okay. Oh well, that was an unfortunate finish. Yeah, I was aware of the time. I just thought I had like 2 seconds left. Oh well. That was a shame. Would have been good to play on. I don't know, something like queen back to d2, take. Knight takes d4 with the threat of knight takes b3. But I was going to answer pawn at g7 if the knight stepped away. Maybe it's best to take with the bishop instead. Oh well, let's forget about that one, do a rematch. But good defense here, so neither side castling. It's a bit hard to find a way into the black king. Perhaps rook b8 in the opening wasn't so bad after all, and then pushing the knight back to b3. Let's see if Jarl plays something completely different. So I think I started with, was it g4 and then c4? And this time I'm going to go knight c6. So intending to meet bishop takes d takes knight at a5 with rook b8. Similar to what Jarl did in the previous game. d3. I think I should be opening up the bishop as fast as possible. He might respond bishop to c3. So trading the bishop helps him develop the knight. Maybe that's not so good. Pawn to c3, a bit more defensive. Let's just play a bit faster in the opening this time. So do I want to play d6 or d5? And what to do with the light square bishop? Maybe f5 is another choice, and the bishop comes out this way. So just got to be mindful of the pawn on a7. But I can't see any immediate danger. So, for example, knight b5 threatens bishop takes c6. I'm not even sure how much of a threat it really is. After d takes knight a7 and rook a8. So yeah, let's just leave the queen side alone for the moment. And in some positions in 960 chess as well, it's useful to make a white ways to move or decide how to defend the b pawn. I think in chess it's a little bit easier if you play knight a4 to keep the knight there for a longer time. That the only other purpose for the knight at the moment is to prepare d5. Perhaps it's more useful to stop knight c5. But it is another purpose to play knight a4 to stop knight c5. I think it is actually worthwhile to play this move. Oh, hang on. I missed a... there was a bishop takes c6 and then a knight at e6 check or a smother mate. So it looks like we both missed this one. And I really shouldn't have played f5, weakening the e6 square when the diagonal was open like this. It's better to play d6 or d5 instead. So it's either bishop f7 or e6 or d6. Actually d6 is no good. e6 is possible. Or again this queen h6 move. And let's just have a quick look at bishop f7 to see if a knight will be any use. Can't really see it at the moment. So it's either d6. I think, again, this is a somewhat useful move to at least make him worry about the pawn on h2. He might answer h4 again, similar to last game. And then again we calculate pawn takes, rook takes, queen takes. But this time my diagonal is open, leading to c1. So he has to watch out for ideas of knight takes b2. But at the moment the knight is covering c1. So just anticipating a h4, take, rook in hand. Try to set up some rook on the back rank. Yeah, so he's done it again. Again, I'm not going to think too much, because I think opening the position is in black's favour. Just got to find the best way to make use of this open diagonal while it lasts. So, looking at moves like knight to a5. It also gains access to a1, even if c1 doesn't end up working. Maybe bishop d2 is his intended response. And there's also an interesting move, knight b4. C takes, knight takes, rook takes, bishop takes, threatening rook at c1. But I think it's more important to get rid of the knight on b3. Well, it's an interesting move, knight a5. Let's just see what happens after bishop d2. Queen sec, knight takes knight, bishop takes queen. But then the bishop is not easy to block out on this diagonal. I'm sure there's some clever way to do this, I just can't quite see it at the moment. Yeah, no, I feel like it's a waste if I play a move like rook at g4, because there's so much attacking potential on the squares here, a1 and c1. So I'm going to go bishop f7 instead. And just to attack b3 a lot more directly. It also does help to cover the square g8. We might even see some rook sack on g8. I don't think it works right now though. Take, rook back on f8. So it also helps to cover the square e6 this move, because don't forget the bishop could trade at any time. So yeah, still hoping for bishop takes b3 and some trick with knight takes b2 check. But probably bishop d2 is the best response for Jarl. Still looking at bishop takes b3, bishop takes queen, knight takes b2, check. Must come this way to c1. What do I have in hand? Knight, rook, 2 pawns. Knight's on b2, king's on c1. Does he have a counterattack with something at... Well, I have a blocker on e8. Actually, the bishop is on b3. 2 heavies would mate in that case. And he will have 2 heavies after bishop takes queen. Ooh, scary. Scary stuff. There's moves like knight takes d3 to make some room. He takes... I'm not so convinced. I think it's just better to play a move like queen takes h4. Yep, so other ideas to play pawn at h2 and rook at g1. And, I mean, still rook at g8 may be possible, but okay. So I'm assuming I should answer d takes, or I guess I could leave it there. As long as I have a good response to rook at g8. So looking at pawn at h2, rook at g8. Rook at e8, take bishop takes. Seems okay. Is there a problem? Rook at g8, must play rook at e8. Knight at e6, check. Pawn takes, rook takes, bishop takes. And the bishop helps to cover d7. There's no second knight for f7 in those lines. So I think I'm safe, at least in the short term, planning rook at g1 next. And yeah, so let's just do that. Ah, whoops, I fell for a mate in 2. I should have taken this first. Oh dear. That was a bit sloppy. Yeah, that's unfortunate. I saw it as soon as I played the move.
You lose.
Oh well. Yeah, so d takes c6 was the main idea. And then I just got a bit carried away with what I wanted to do next. But d takes c6 looks totally fine. Can't see any problem. And then ideas also to promote, answering rook at f8 with bishop at e8. Yeah, seems pretty decent. So I'm just falling for one move blunders in the last couple of games, but I do like these open positions. Of course, I could answer moves like h4 with g4 and play a closed game, but I'd rather make the game more exciting and give more potential for blunders like that. So let's do a couple more and hopefully I can improve the level a little bit. So bishops on a1 and b1. And I'm going to start f5 and so the queen covers the g and h pawns, the rook covers f5. Probably just c5 and b6. I mean, obviously there's no other way to activate the bishop on a8. Doesn't seem to be any real weaknesses for either side. Straight out of the opening. I guess knight g3 is possible. And just considering whether to play g6 or e6 or f4. F4, what happens? Knight h5. And then g7 is a bit of a concern. So, any drawbacks? Yeah, there is a drawback to g6 because then you could stick a pawn on g7. What about e6? How do I answer knight h5? It's a bit of an awkward opening. There's also the option to take on g3. It does allow f takes and then hitting the pawn on f5. Don't really like any of these options. E6, knight h5, rook f7. Yeah, it's about the best I can come up with, but I'm not so sure about rook f7. Well, I'd like to play g6 then to knock away the knight if it lands on h5. Rook f7 followed by g6, but then there's knight f6. Check to cover first. Alright, so he hasn't gone for knight h5, the most aggressive option. Perhaps I should take the time to play g6 as a precaution. Or just develop the knight c6. So he's got knight a4. And I was going to play b6 anyway, because otherwise the bishop is buried in the corner. So possibly knight d4 to follow, but then e3. Alright, so he's committed to castling. Castling queenside with the bishops for defense. So I'm looking at aggressive moves like d5. It's a little bit hard to open the c file though in that case. He might answer d3, take, but I can push d4 in that case. Any drawbacks to this move? Trade, pawn at d7, king takes. F5 is hanging. I should have played g6 first. Yeah, but now the idea was to go d4. Alright, so I got both the bishops blocked. I think he missed a chance there with take. So bishop f4 becomes a possibility. Check. Maybe you can even hide on b2 and a3. No, that's a bit too crazy. So e3 is preparing to trade a couple of pawns and give his king a bit more space, and give the bishops a bit more space. Should I answer e5? e5, e takes, rook f1 check. Perhaps I should be castling instead. Yeah, that's more like it. 24 ratings from JarlCarlander Chess, I just noticed. Welcome, guys. I am very well, playing absolutely terribly, but my excuse is that I've only played about 10 or 12 games of 960 Crazy House in my life. So that is a pretty poor excuse because I'm falling for like 2-move mates and 1-move blunders everywhere. But the good thing about this game is that nobody knows what's going on. So if I give you an evaluation, I guess you'd have to be a pretty strong player to refute my evaluation or to come up with a better one. Now, of course, that doesn't mean you have to believe everything I say, because I say a lot of rubbish on the stream. So looking at e5, it helps to open the queen. get rid of this backward pawn on e6. Can't see anything wrong with it. Well, you might trade pawns and stick a pawn back on d5, but I think that seems okay. Yeah, so crazyhouse960 on Pychess. Shaking my head, perpetual stalemate. G4, okay, didn't anticipate this move. Would really like a few pawn trades though to start building a base. Pawn b4, pawn c3 and so on. What about just ignore this and go pawn f4? Take. Looks good to block out the queen. Yeah, I like f4. I mean, it's not the sort of move you do in chess to allow this huge gaping hole on e4, but it's not so much of a worry. I mean, my king feels very safe. The bishop has this diagonal covered. So there will be a knight b4 coming quite soon. Yeah, is someone saying bughouse in the chat? No, this is not bughouse. There's no bughouse on Pychess. It would be really fun though to have a variant 960 bughouse. Sorry, I have a touchscreen. I just accidentally changed the display. So what just happened? So he's blocked up the position with e4. He must realize that pawn trades favor the player with extra space and with the longer pawn chains like this. So f3, knight g3. Would like a pawn for e2 in that case. Is it possible to steal a pawn? Something like knight b4, knight takes a2 and pawn at e2. Might even be worth a queen sack and then pawn at e2. That would be outrageous. Alright, how about just a normal developing move? Knight g6, knight h4, knight f3 also looks good. So it's very unclear what all of these pieces are doing right now. So I think black has an overwhelming space advantage. And in Crazy House that often means even more than in regular chess. So IGH is saying it'll be fun to have bughouse on a decent site that doesn't lag all the time. Yes, that's absolutely true. And in fact, let me just play a few more moves to gain some time on the clock. He's hoping for queen g4 check, of course. Let's just block that out. Yeah, my lowest lag days ever in the last 20 years that I've been playing Bughouse online is on Fix in 1998 when I first started, 21 years ago, at university in Newcastle. And it's not even a capital city in Australia. But I had a ping of something like 160 milliseconds, which at that time, 20 years ago, was just incredible for Australian lag, you know. Okay, interesting play. So, avoiding any knight drops, let's see. Where can I go? Queen d7? And bishop takes. Yeah, but especially considering the time 21 years ago. I mean, even now 21 years later on chess.com, for instance, I lag around the same, 160, 180, maybe 200 milliseconds. On lead chess, it's more like 350 or 400 milliseconds. I haven't tested if there's any way on this website, not yet. What other? Bughouse Test was pretty good, the old Bughouse Test website, which was just a clone of lead chess. I had a ping of about 140 or 160. And that was the fastest. Actually, John Lee and Bugzilla and I used to play on an Australian version of Fix called Zix, Z-I-C-S, but that hasn't existed in about 15 years, and I had pings of something like 30 or 40 milliseconds. So he hasn't taken back the knight on c6. What's he thinking about? There is no obvious way to place it. So the queen is safe on d7. The bishop looks good to cover. Well, if he goes knight at d5, I don't necessarily want to take this because it allows the pawns to come closer. I'm just covering b6. Even looking at king b7 or queen a7. Yeah, let's go queen a7 to cover the pawn of b6. Idea is at some point to bring the queen down to a3, maybe after pawn at c3. But he does have a lot of pieces on.
check,
Ah, I didn't see that one. Can I just go bishop d7? Nothing wrong with bishop d7? Knight takes, queen takes. No, that's okay. Yeah, Bughouse test was good. I really liked that website. And the way you could quickly suggest moves to your partner. I mean, Fix was the best for that, of course. f3? I think it's time to play f3 now. So he's hoping to have time to steal a pawn on h7, but I think I'm getting in first. So it'll be a shame to lose this game. I've done a couple of tragic one-move blunders in the last 2 games. Got flagged in the previous game when maybe it was a little bit worse, but not lost. We had 177 move game of crazyhouse960, and as Pepello was saying before, when you're playing a strong player, it's hard not to lose in 10 moves in crazyhouse960. I mean, it's very easy to lose that quickly. Alright, so let's try and find a checking sequence. Knight at e2, king d2. That doesn't look so good. Queen a3 also doesn't seem to work. What else do we have? Pawn at e2. Any counter threats? Knight at e7 check. Yeah, knight at e7 is a bit of a concern. What about just defending with rook at e6, answering knight at e7 with king b7 and king a8 if needed. Very hard for white to control this b7 square. That's the evacuation plan. So an entire sleeve asks, what's this variant? It's like Crazy House, but the pieces just get mixed up on the back row at the start. So I'll just give Jarl a bit more time, because it is a shame to end the game on time, especially because this website, I mean, it's a fantastic website for all the variants, but just sometimes when you go to pick up a piece, it just doesn't quite catch on the first time, like when you've got 5 seconds left on the clock. And you can see that if you play through the video and you go to the points where I'm low on time. So I still don't see any immediate threats. I'm going to counterattack via pawn at e2. And I still don't see how white is controlling the square b7. So JarlCarlander, probably most well known for Bughouse on chess.com. And he ranges from 23 to 2500 on chess.com Bughouse. Also something like 2300 Crazy House on Lead Chess. Although I don't think he's so active in Crazy House. Someone is singing Mary Had a Little Lamb in the chat. I'm not sure what you call that in English. Something that doesn't logically follow a sequence. There's a word for it. Please sing for us. Well, I do have a microphone. I don't have any background music though. Anyone want to play some background music?
Victory.
Yeah, pawn at e2 is a bit hard to deal with. I mean, what happens after rook e1? I still have to work out exactly how to proceed. Maybe just rook takes f2 and rook f1 was the idea. Non sequitur, yeah, I mean, I wasn't quite sure. But I remember that word from the old high school days. Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead, the characters in Hamlet. It was a play by Tom Stoppard. Do we go rematch? No, I forgot what colour I was. Jarl, are you here? There's another player looking for a game. Yeah, I'm happy to change. I'm just not sure whether we had even blacks or whites. But I can look at my profile. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Anyway, doesn't matter. If anyone else wants to play, just let me know. Otherwise, I'll create a seek in the lobby. And if anyone wants to try S-House or Seirawan House, I'm also happy to try that one and test the other layout with the longer... No, sorry, that's capahouse. It's a longer board, 10 by 8. But for now, I'm just going to seek crazyhouse960 in the lobby. And I haven't been following everything in the chat, but if you do want to play and you have an account on Pychess, so of course the website is at the bottom of your screen. It's a chess variants website. You just type this or paste it into your, or maybe a bit hard to grab the text, but type it into your URL and create an account. You can just use your Lichess account, very easy to do. So if anyone wants to accept the challenge, London is now speaking in Russian. Okay, any other Russians here? Otherwise, like the last guy that spoke in Russian, you're just talking to yourself. Where's little Pluck when you need him? Does he speak Russian? You can also play anonymously. Yeah, you can also play as a guest. I've chose rated though, but if someone wants to play as a guest, then you can either create a game yourself in the lobby, which is very easy to do, or
Ready.
Or you can just ask me in the chat to seek a casual game. But no, I want to hear a song. Wrong stream. Yes, it is a wrong stream. I'm sure there are some streamers who make up spontaneous crazy house songs, but not me. I'm not so talented to multitask like that. Hard enough playing a new game as it is. I probably only played about 20 games of crazyhouse960 in my whole life. So he's going for the old mate in 3, smother mate on g7. And I would like to defend by castling, but it's just a bit awkward with the bishop bearing down against me. So perhaps better to just stop knight f5 with e6 or d5. Yeah, I might just go a slightly more passive approach this time in e6. What about Helm's Knight? Does she sing bughouse songs? She certainly sings songs. I'm not sure whether she makes up spontaneous bughouse songs or crazy house songs. e4. Yeah, I'm going to try the wolf defense in 960. Bishop e7. Oh, normally this knight ends up on c6, but that's a bit hard to achieve right now. Could even be an improved wolf defense if the knight goes to g6 on move 1. So bishop e7 might just delay castling to make sure that's really the way I want to go. Alright, now's a good time to open up the diagonal. b6 or b5. So it seems like Jarl, every time I play b5, he's going to answer it with a4. And then we have that open file again. Take. I still am not convinced that it's a bad idea for me to open lines and trade. There's also a bit of a target here on e4. Of course, I may be completely wrong about this opening of the files, which has happened a couple of times. So yeah, rook e1, very sensible move. Looking at options to play knight f4, d4. But then I can't support the knight via e5. I don't have control over e5 if he goes d4. So other options. I think it's a good idea though to play knight f4, maybe even sack on g2. It's the way I would play in regular Crazy House for sure. And try to open this diagonal for the bishop. And e5 may be useful at some point to open the queen for h3. Yeah, so as expected, d4 hits the knight. So it's either e5 if it works tactically. I don't see it working. Otherwise, just sack on g2 was the original intention. I'm going to do that without thinking. Yeah, an entire sleeve. Well, I have lived in Europe, but only for 6 months. Or for short. I've been to Europe about 4 times in my life, but only for short periods of time. But yeah, I'm a city boy, so I lived in Sydney for about 14 years. So compared to the country Aussies you might have heard on YouTube, for instance, like Isaac Butterfield, those with very heavy or thick Aussie accents live out in the country, and You might have heard some Aussie comedians or Aussie YouTubers, for example. So pawn at g4 is what you normally do here. Any merit in playing e5 or trading on e4? Take. What would I have? 2 pawns and a knight. Yeah, it's not much. I think just go. Well, actually, pawn at. No, pawn at g4. The other idea is to find a way to knock away the knight on g3 to weaken the defense on e4, but that's not so. Even John Lee sounds a lot more distinctive Australian to me. Yeah, so Setland and we hear a lot about fire there. There is serious catastrophe going on in New South Wales in particular, which is the most heavily populated state. And even though it's relatively small compared to other states, it's still probably about 4 or 5 European countries just within the state itself. So obviously there's going to be lots of bushland and yeah, something outrageous like 400,000 hectares just for one of the bushfires, and there are many burning in the state at the same time. So it is a real catastrophe. It's going to be ongoing during the summer because we still have 2.5 months of hot weather left in the summer. So what's he trying to do? Knight g5. Only defended by the queen. Trying to fortify e4. So still knight takes is very tempting, followed by pawn at f5. The other idea is just to go h6. Allow a sack. Rook takes. That seems okay too. Yeah, I can't see what's wrong with h6. I even have the option to castle if needed, but I don't really see that's any use at the moment. So the idea is to make him take back with a piece and then use this as a pin to stick a pawn on f5 and win the piece back, and then to take over squares like f3 and h3. Alright, what is this? He wants to go bishop takes g4. That's quite an important pawn to get rid of. And castling is illegal. So I think I do have to stop knight takes f8. Let's see. There are some options here. So again, knight takes e4 is a very sharp option. Knight takes e4. Pawn at f3, check, king back. Bishop takes knight, rook takes knight, knight at f3, check, king f1. That's the sort of things I'm looking at. Maybe a little bit hard to pick up extra material if needed. So what about knight takes, bishop takes, knight back to f6, bishop back. And I have a knight in hand. So yeah, I like this one just to keep the rook safe. So there's no possibility of a counterattack because my tactics are actually completely horrible today. If you've been here for a while or you watched the games where I lost, Mr. Made in 2 in one game, and I think it was some really obvious blunder in another game. So taking here without thinking to open this diagonal further. And I don't want to allow moves like pawn at f3 defending everything. So, but a bishop is too much to sack. Perhaps stick a knight on either g5 or h4 check. Let's go with... Let's get rid of this mess on the board. Still not sure. Bishop g5, another option. Make him waste a pawn. That's not so convincing. Bishop h4 and take on g3. I'm going to go with knight at g5 because there are 2 holes to cover, which is a little bit awkward. So kpos1 is asking, do you want to play with me? On what website do you play? If you can see the stream, I would hope that is a self-explanatory question. And there's a word in English for that too, which I can't focus on right now. A rhetorical question. Knight takes e4. Knight takes e4. Pawn at f5. Not so convincing. Thanks for the extra time, Jarl. Again, pawn at f3 is a good defense for white here on the next move. So I think if I do anything, it has to be now. I'm just going to go knight takes e4, assuming knight takes, and no, rook takes. All right. So is there any merit in trading immediately? I don't quite see it. So I'm looking at either bishop at bishop to g5 or bishop h4, or just pawn at f5, but then take the pawn is pinned. That is his point. But I'll play it anyway, because I can take here first with check and then go e takes f5, and then he's got to worry about his loose knight on e4. So yes, Pychess is a chess variance website. If you can follow the stream, that should be very obvious to you, I hope. If you can see the bottom of the screen. And my display hasn't been wrecked by me clicking or touching random things on the screen. Knight at h5, unexpected. I could even... castling is a bit risky. Other options. Bishop at f6. Could even allow capture on g7 and king d7. Is that so bad? I mean, bishop at f6 is safe. But then that's one less piece to pile up on the diagonal. I can't decide. Bishop at f6. Nah, I'm going to be risky and take this way. And go king d7 next. Can't see how he's getting in with his knights and pawns. Draconic Fae. He says got to zoom more. What do you mean got to zoom more? I mean, my screen looks okay.
Check.
I can't exactly tell what you guys see, but it looks like the board is fitting in, the extra pieces are fitting in. Over here, the website is at the bottom. Draconic Face says, unless you want to keep getting free time, in which case take all the time you want. Oh, zoom, he doesn't mean zoom in. We were talking about the layout before, I thought you meant zoom in. He means zoom as in go speedy. Speedy Gonzalez. Bishop at f3 to follow. Yeah, I'm just rambling on, so that's why my opponent's giving me more time. I don't ask for more time. I never ask for more time, but if he wants to, that's fine by me. So okay, defending the square g2. So bishop at f3 is not so dangerous. Perhaps now bishop to g5, because I can't see how any of these knights are actually attacking my king. My king is quite safe on d7. This also makes a little bit more room. Perhaps the queen could come across if needed, or even out this way. So if I had a few defensive moves in a row, I'd play queen a6, rook db8, king c8, and then I'll be safe forever. But this is a more aggressive idea. The idea is simply to trade here and then go bishop at f3. So defending the key square on f3 again. So rook to g8 is an option, but then knight at h5, knight at f6, check if the bishop exchanges. Other ideas to pick up a pawn for f4 perhaps. Maybe just bishop at f4. There's lots of options here for black, for both sides actually. Yep, pawn at f2, quite sensible. I'm just going to trade and go knight at h4 check.
Check.
So hoping to pick up a diagonal piece for g2. How do we do it? have no idea. The other idea is to sack a knight on f3 with possible ideas h2, g1, if take helps to awaken the bishop on a8. And these pawns are very dangerous on f3 and g2 or e2. Alright, and I still don't see any counterattack on my king, even with the knight in hand. Is there a crazy house endgame? Asked Seirawan. Well, I don't exactly know what you mean by an endgame. Is that where you just keep all the pieces in hand and you're trading everything off and there's nothing left on the board? I suppose you could call that an endgame of sorts, but the way John Lee refers to an endgame in Crazy House is just literally the end of the game, where you're focusing on checkmating sequences, surviving with the king, trying to flag the opponent. But as far as, you know, Russian endgame technique, it's not a factor in Crazy House. So you don't have themes like, you know, opposition and shouldering the king and calculating past pawn races and queening with check. I don't know, all the typical endgame themes. Outside past pawn, square of the pawn, pawn majority, stuff like this are just not factors in Crazy House at all. Bishop at d3, what's he trying to do? Just a defensive move, it seems. He's got lots of pieces on e2. Pawn at g2. Perhaps I should be playing a move like rook at g2 instead. So I have b5 covered. I'm just going to give him some more time. I think it's more interesting if the game ends by non-artificial means. I mean, an actual checkmate. So what is the idea of this move? Well, one idea is to sack on g2 and then promote via knight at h3, pawn at g2, and then push g1. Otherwise, just piling up another piece on e2. I'm not sure what Lila is, Dragonfey. You'd have to ask GB Tami, who's the developer of this website. There may be some other people who know as well. Knight at e4, blocking out the bishop. Any threats? If he gets another knight, but he has 4 knights on the board. He may not have seen my sneaky threat here.
Check.
With knight at h3 and promoting. So that's... You can't actually pick up a piece like you can on Lee chess and keep it in your hand. So the piece, if your opponent makes a move, goes back to the pocket, which is...
Check.
Well, it's just something you have to get used to. So this is the whole idea. Rook at f1. And I'm looking at, well, actually many options here, like bishop takes e3 looks good. I can remove the knight first. Merry Christmas at London. I hear there's a big tournament in Moscow. I'm not sure where you're from, but on the 25th of December, the opening ceremony of the World Rapid and Blitz Championships. So, what would I do in a 1-0 game? Jan Lee would always ask himself. Actually, this bishop is useful to cover the square c6, so probably either bishop takes. Actually, queen takes looks good too, because
check.
I can allow this take, knight f6, and then just answer king e7. The knight check is not dangerous at all. An entire sleeve is talking about Chuban and Suban. What language is it? Chinese? That's a lot to read while I'm trying to play a game. You'll try to converge where your opponent's king is. You judge the situation with the position of your pieces and also with the value of the pieces you have on the board and your hand. I was talking about phases of the game, not variants. Does that just apply to Shangxi, the Chinese chess? Seirawan says he's Swedish. He just loves the Russian language. I see. Rook takes, what was that on f3? Was that just a pawn on f3? So the knight, you see, is covering the squares on d2. So if I can do this by brute force, it might be a good time to take the knight here on e4 and then go knight at g2 check. but what to do after king e2? Knight hf4 check. And if the king goes back to f1, there's a mate here. So yeah, I think now is a good time. Oh, he's taking with the bishop. Oh, but that allows queen at d2 check.
Victory.
And that's, yeah, it's a mate into queen at d2 check, king f1, pawn at g2 to finish. And the idea was, if knight takes, that I was going to go knight at g2 check, king d1, there's a queen at e1 mate, king e2, then I could even go, oh sorry, not queen at d2, knight hf4 was the original idea, king f1 and queen at g1 to finish. So I think it's still a mate anyway. GG's Jal. What I'm going to do now is that 2 blacks I had in a row? Or is it meant to be randomised? Yeah, I've had quite a few blacks. But anyway, I'm just going to continue seeking for the moment. I'm very happy to play anyone who wants to accept a challenge in the lobby. You don't even need an account, says Jal, on Pychess to accept a challenge. Or if you can't do rated, if you're on a guest account, then you can create a game. I assume I'll just see it at the top. And then I can click on your challenge, or if you just tell me in the lobby chat, or even the stream chat if you're watching, then I can just create a casual game. So accepting all challenges, doesn't matter what your strength or what your rating is. You can see I'm about 1300, the bottom of the server at the moment, so I'm playing absolutely terribly today, but it's all in good fun. So if there's anyone else who wants to accept the challenge, feel free, just click on the line here at the top, that's all you need to do. Just coming back to the browser display so you can see. Thanks for the follow, Spearmint772, and there were a few more follows. Well, let's go back. Dragon Faces, you're not 1300. Well, it's a new website. I can show you the leaderboard. Actually, if you click on players, if you're on the website, you can easily see the leaderboard. So, who else? Railbird80 has followed. IMC Jebs has followed. Not quite sure how to say that name. So do we have a game? There's normally a sound when someone accepts the challenge. Yeah, I know it's very quiet as chess sites go, but we have a few people here on the stream, so hopefully somebody's watching who's interested in having a go. And can you make 2 challenges at the same time? So I could even test the other layout and introduce the new pieces with capahouse960. So I wonder if anyone has a rating in capahouse960 on the server. So here's the rating page. You can see, although my face is in the way, there are many variants, some of which I don't even have any idea of the rules. Like Cambodian, Shako, Makrook I've only tried a couple of times. Or how do they say it? Markrook Thai. Placement chess I'm not sure about. Grand chess is a mystery to me with the pawn position on the 3rd row. It's an extended board. Mini Shangxi and Mini Shogi I have no idea about. There's also Goth chess and Goth house, which seem very similar to Capablanca chess and Capablanca house. So where's Capahouse? Yeah, nobody has a rating in Capahouse so far. I guess we all start at 1500 question mark. And it's all relative, of course. So yeah, I mean, of course I'm joking about the ratings because I think Nordlandia has only played GB Tami a couple of times in this variant and already is on top of the leaderboard. And I have a bit of climbing up to do. Kriegspiel, that would be a fun variant to try while streaming. I mean, I do occasionally do blindfold Crazy House streams. I've never tried a blindfold Crazy House 960 stream. So I wonder what you do if you just completely forget the starting position. Let's see, what has JarlCarlander accepted? So this is Capahouse, and this is where I need to change the display. Yeah, it's 960 as well. So let's see if it works. This is the 10x8 board, and just fitting in all the pieces in the pocket. You can see the 2 extra pieces here, which are, now Jarl, if you can hear me, correct me if I'm wrong, but in Kappa chess they're known as the Archbishop, which is the bishop plus a knight. And is this the Chancellor, the rook plus a knight? So please correct me if I'm wrong. But in Seirawan chess they're known as the hawk and the elephant, which are the pieces you can see just above my face, below the dice. So this is 5+5 Kappa house. And in Kappa house, all the pieces appear on the board, unlike S house and S chess. And there's no replacing the pieces on the back row, like in S chess and S house. It's just what you see is what you get. It's crazy house, so if you take a piece, you get it back in your hand. And let's have some fun. So I've only played this variant a couple of times in my life. I don't think I've ever tried the 960 version of Kappa house. So I'm lost on move 1. Is the bishop aiming at anything? Not yet. And also, Jarl, correct me if I'm wrong, but is castling where you put the king on top of the rook and then the king goes to, I'm not actually sure, is it I8 and C8? And you have to clear all the pieces in between I and where the king starts, and C and where the king starts. Well, actually B and where the king starts, in this case. So, yeah, I'm not sure whether you heard the question. I don't think there's much of a delay, maybe only 3 or 4 seconds, which is normal on Twitch. G3, so no targets here. The queen seems to be the only piece covering the pawn on D7. Perhaps it's good just to block out the bishop via E6. And you notice here there are quite a lot of pieces covering the pawn on G7. So the letters are ranging from A through to J in these 10x8 variants, like Kappa chess and Goth chess, I think. So Jarl's saying he's better at 10x10, which is a variant known as Grand Chess or Grand House, combining Grand Chess with Crazy House. And I really don't have a handle on the rules of that variant, because I think the pawns start on row 3 and row 8. And I don't even know how the pawns move or get replaced back on the board in the Crazy House version of the game, and what the promotion rules are. Where do you have to go to promote the pawn and so on. Alright. So the piece values are a bit of a mystery in this game, because the hawk and the elephant are worth roughly the same as a queen. Could be a little bit more, could be a little bit less in some situations. Really depends on whether you can attack the king. And I mean, sometimes when the king is open, dropping a hawk, sorry, what do you call it? An archbishop is deadly if there's a space next to the king. So he's gone F3, opening the queen. That doesn't seem so dangerous at the moment, so we'll just keep on developing. Any targets to attack? No obvious targets at the moment, so Jarl is saying he thinks the knight and the bishop is 7, the rook and the knight is 8. But, well, that depends on what the other pieces are worth. And if you're talking about the Crazy House version of the game, in regular Crazy House, if a pawn is worth 1, and again I'm not sure whether you're counting the pawn as 2, which it depends which way you count. I mean, I'm used to the count going like this: pawn is 1, knight and bishop and rook are roughly 2, or some people say rook is 2.5 or 3, the queen is about 4, between 4 and 5. But you might be counting the pawn as 2 points. I'm not sure which way you're counting. What about this pawn? Is it a weakness? Can I go bishop? Can I go bishop F4? And I'm just trying to provoke. G3. I have to actually look at the letters and numbers here. Sorry again, it's a touchscreen. I'm wobbling around my face a little bit. Yeah, so this was the idea, and just drop the bishop back. Just make room for the knight on. I'm used to this being f6, it's actually h6, knight to h6. And perhaps what I might do is to open up the hawk and then try to castle and see where the king lands. So I really appreciate the 2 raids I had before from Pepelo and No Joke Chess, because otherwise I'm not sure how anyone would even be aware of this stream going on and the different variants on Pychess. I guess it's mainly just through word of mouth and people sharing the links and sharing the website and so on. Also myself and Katask and possibly some other players have the Pychess link on their Lichess profile. So just going to go knight f6. Got to be careful not to allow the bishop to trade for the hawk. So I don't want to play moves like pawn to g6 because then the bishop can take here. But I do have an avenue via knight to, what do you call it? I call it the wrong name all the time. It's a lot easier to stick to hawk and elephant. But this is the Archbishop. So Archbishop to g6 is the idea. And then I'm just going to castle. And normally you play a move like j6 if there's any pressure on the diagonal here. But it seems pretty safe to castle at the moment. So he's going Archbishop to j2. Doesn't seem like he wants to jump forwards and let me trade for the knight. So let's see where the king lands. Is it on I8? Yes, it is. So just like in regular chess, there is a 1 square gap on the left hand side if you're playing with the black pieces, and probably a 2 square gap, and the king will end up on c if you castle long. So it's a very defensive, cautious game so far. Only the Chancellor covering the pawn on c2. So it could be a little bit of a target. What else can we do to target c2? Maybe a rook lift, rook b6, rook c6. Yeah, let's bring the rook out. Oh, I just noticed this pawn is hanging on g7. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, all these pieces surrounding, even the special pieces, the extra pieces. But nothing can take the bishop back on g7. Yeah, maybe just give him the rook. I'm not sure how much the rook is worth in this sort of position. It's fairly locked up. Maybe just stick to the plan and go rook c6. Yeah, so I'm going to let him take the rook if he wants. Recapture with the queen, keeping the king very safe. He can also trade for the knight if he so desires, and maybe stick a pawn back on e5, bishop back. Knight at f6 check, king h8. No, he's gone back to c3. And now it's probably worthwhile saving the rook e8 just to stop any pawn at g7 in the future. Again, I'm used to calling this square e7, just because of the typical cluster of patterns that you remember from chess. So he's blocked out the attack on c2. That's the idea of bishop c3. And what is this piece doing here? And what is a knight doing on d8? So d4, maybe a trade here. I wonder if it's wise to open the E file. But there are also options to recapture with the Archbishop or the Knight. there's this square on g2 that I'm keeping an eye on. So it's going to take a long time to crack into this defensive setup here that Jarl has managed to achieve. Maybe just knight out of the way, and then pawn g4 is a bit disturbing. Yeah, well in that case it's probably worthwhile. Well, I'm even looking at knight e4, sacking the knight that way. Pawn takes, pawn takes. Not so sure about this, but we'll give it a go. Otherwise it was just knight back to knight hf7, is that the notation? Knight hf7. So he wants to sack a, trade queens because he's the one attacking. That's what I would assume based on the last move, but yeah, let's trade queens anyway, open up the game a bit more. So could take back with the Archbishop, but then I don't have so much defense around the square g7 where he's going to invade very soon. Yeah, not a lot of choice. I mean, I guess I could trade the queen first. Actually, it might be useful to trade the queen first just to keep the rook here on e8 and the Archbishop here on, sorry, g8 and g6, and pawn takes back. So now it's his turn to decide if he wants to sack the knight or... Yeah, I find 5 plus 5 actually quite fast in this variant. Because, yeah, like I keep saying, nobody really has any clue what's going on. So
Check.
Again, I would like a knight for this square, whatever it's called, g2. And here I can actually step away because there's no smothered mate. But pawn on f6 is what I'm worried about, so I will take this. And the Archbishop covers on i7. So now I can take here, maybe even throw the knight on the board with check first. And could possibly take this, but then the knight is on pre after bishop takes back. Or do I need to defend? No, I'm going to take a chance and go for this one. Railbird's asking, does playing variants on Pychess? I hope not. I hope it doesn't affect the chess ratings. They're completely different variants, so... No, I mean, you can use your lead chess profile to log in, but I don't think it has any bearing on the lead chess website itself. Here we go. I have to sack that, or maybe there's a rook at...
Check.
Whatever that square is called first. F1 check. Bishop at. So I'm going to be in trouble if I have to sack the Archbishop. But I don't see any alternative because rook takes gets nowhere. Otherwise it's a mate. On h8. No other way to defend. Well, unless I can make pawn to h6 work. Queen at king f7. It's close to working, but... well, is it worth a go? Queen... add, rook takes, pawn takes, Archbishop takes. I think is actually surviving in the short term. Am I just getting mated after takes here though? Let's try and work it out. Can't actually see the mate. So I'm going to do it. So he really wants a pawn for j6 or a bishop for h. But if he has to drop an Archbishop, it's a lot to sacrifice. So bishop takes h8, for example.
Check.
So Archbishop on d3 is just a fork on the rook, I guess. So I probably should just drop a pawn on h6. I can't see any better responses. Is he intending to take this? There is a rook covering. So the knight is safe here for the moment. Should I just pick up this one while I can? But the pawn may be dangerous on this square. Oh, I'm flagging, so I just better move. Aha, so now knight at h, whatever that is, h5. I think it's important to cover this square. Yeah, but the knight's not secure. Yeah, there's a bit of a worry. So now this piece is hanging, so we'll just come back. Well, that seems to be the only safe square. Maybe a move like rook takes c3 could be useful, just to bring a piece away from attacking and pointing in the direction of the king. Yeah, but how to get through all these bishops and fake bishops, archbishops? Oh, it's going to take an eternity to crack through here. I mean, f2 is a square, but oh dear. Knight h6, I suppose. J6. Very hard to call the squares quickly in this game. So if I have time, knight f7 could be a reasonable way to defend. Otherwise, try to trade the knight for the archbishop. Just like this. Oh, I'll give him more time. So he's just stepped back, maybe intending pawn to h4. But I will do the intended move. Actually, maybe knight here attacking the rook is a little bit better, because I don't want the knights all loose when he plays pawn to h4. Oh, rook takes c3 is a tactic, so opening up the bishop to trade here. Yeah, and I think it's worthwhile to do that now. So just forget about the rook, there's no need to take this one. It's a pretty even trade anyway. I don't think the rook does anything. Can I just take that back? Yes. So this Chancellor can swing over very quickly. They don't go diagonally, so it's not attacking my king. Is it worthwhile trading the knight for the rook? But then the pawn comes closer, attacks the knight. Maybe just leave the knights there for the moment. And what to do, what to do. Perhaps a move like bishop at could be useful. I don't know whether you really call this a fork. But my king is certainly looking a lot safer than when his pawns are on h6 and g7, that's for sure. Yep, so I do need to worry about this one. We just pawn at g5 in response. Bishop takes... I don't want a gaping hole on h6, so... Oh, if he wants to make a hole, he could do this one. And then the only consistent move will be h takes. This time I have a choice to go rook takes or knight takes. Yeah, I know rook takes is coming off the back row, but this is a long distance piece. So I don't think there's any immediate danger of relinquishing control over the back row. I'm still intending to pick up the thingy over there, the Chancellor. Yeah, so this is a good way in. Not really sure how to respond to this move. Pull the knight back to g8. This is a little bit scary. Knight takes h6, knight takes h6 pawn. Here king takes, what does he have left? Just a rook and a queen. What was that? A pawn. Okay, so now I need to defend where the king is on. How about bishop at h8? And then the idea is to step back king j8. Bishops are defending each other in case he wants to trade here, or deflect. Deflecting the bishop may be useful, but there's also rook takes. Okay, so maybe just step the rook back, and And then rook takes. Ooh, but there's a trick there. Chancellor takes. Alright, so what else can I do? What about just queen? Yeah, I'm losing all the pawns in that case. Queen at e7 is an attempt to hold all the pawns. Yeah, I think this rook sack is somewhat dangerous, followed by knight takes. Knight takes, pawn at king here. The knight is covering h7 for the moment. What are the options? How to defend this pawn? How do I avoid losing all the pawns? Yeah, I don't see it. I don't see any easy way to avoid losing the pawns. So I'm gonna go queen at, what's this, e8 instead. So allowing the sack, if he wants to. Just have a little bit of extra cover over the square g6. Oh yeah, I didn't see this one. Rook at e7. Now that is very nasty. Because although the queen is defended, it's still losing material. Maybe take this opportunity to come back. Oh no. But then I'm losing the pawn on h7 too. So I'm just going to take back this way. And still, this rook is safe on f7 after the trade here. Very hard to evaluate, but I think I'm much worse in this position. Yeah, it's a good move. What choice? What choice do I have? Yeah, and it's the right play with the king, so safe to play for material. Because still just feels like this piece can move diagonally, but it's, you can see with the blue dots all the squares that the piece is controlling. Somehow the rook is immune to capture with all the pieces surrounding it. So what was that, a rook? Can I go knight takes? What's his idea? Now there's something pointing at the rook on f7. I thought he would have just promoted. Okay. I'm still no closer to getting in here. I gotta find a way. No, I don't see it. I don't see any reasonable moves. I'm just going to trade because I don't see an alternative. And hope to pick up the rook on f7. Yep, so as expected. And you can promote to one of the new pieces. Wow. Oh, this is a big problem if he... Well, I mean, he can play this check because it's a knight as well, but the king is actually safe for the moment on j8. With the bishop covering. Oh, he can take the bishop. Knight takes. Something drops here. Uh-oh. Alright, that's real trouble. Yeah, I think I'm toast if he takes here. So take, knight takes, bishop at g7, king takes, chancellor back on g8, check. And then I have to come out this way, but then he can drop a queen there, king up, queen, what's that, i4 to finish. No, he's giving me a chance to defend, possibly. But how to defend and avoid losing a knight at the same time. He's dropped his thingo, so I'm not sure whether he wants to take here now. Giving me more time. I don't know. Rook at d8 is about the best I can come up with. I'm not so sure about my survival chances. So the idea is Chancellor takes on f7, and then I can clean up this one. Give him more time. So we want this to end in a real finish. We want to see a checkmate. Hello, ACW Cool. Welcome. So the knight is immune to capture. Maybe he wants to take this twice? Or what's the idea? I have to cover the square g7. And I want to do it with the bishop, but I don't have any bishops left. What about pawn and g6? Okay, how about I move like Archbishop at g7? Does that work as a defense? I guess he could trade, but he's at least removing one piece from the defense of his king. If he trades here. The piece I really want to remove though is the bishop on g2. It's just so hard to gain access to this piece. Yeah, rook at f8. So triple attack here on h8 as well as the obvious threat on the knight. Don't see any good way to defend. Take. Knight at... Maybe I just have to defend the bishop. I don't think I can allow the bishop to fall. So giving away the knight on f7. And then we try and launch a counter-attack via pawn at g2. Okay, unexpected, allowing me to pick up this piece a few times. What's the idea? I don't quite understand. The Archbishop controls h8. You could have taken this bishop if you wanted to. Yeah, okay. Let's just step back out of the way. Bishop at, I have knight takes, Archbishop. Yeah, that's what I was expecting. Maybe pawn to j5, or now I could go for the attack with pawn at g2. Could put the knight here first, but then the rook will come back to the back row. But perhaps just cover the back row a little bit more. He doesn't have a pawn for e7 at the moment. So in case you have just joined the chat, we are playing a game called Capahouse, and it's a combination of the extra or the fairy chess pieces you can see above my face, the elephant, the hawk, or in this game it's called the Archbishop and the Chancellor, and also randomizing with 960, shuffling the pieces randomly on the back row. And I have only played this game once or twice before in my life. So threatening the rook on f8. He does have a pawn, which I do have to be careful. So rook at f1 was the idea, but can I allow this capture here? Rook takes here. Or should I take on f2 first? I'm going to be more aggressive and go rook at f1, hoping he'll forget about this capture and defend. No. So rook takes b1. Still the Archbishop is...
Check.
I missed that one. So nice mother made to finish. Yes. So I should perhaps have been more cautious and maybe gone... Oh, he says he missed a mate in one. Was it a similar move with Chancellor takes on h7? I'm not sure exactly when. Or was it this one? Oh, this is it. Chancellor takes on h7. Yeah, that was it. Yeah, so after rook takes e8. There is a mate in one here. So very easy to miss with the added new pieces. So the game lasted 58 moves. There was a mate in one missed on about move 52 or something. No? Anyway, doesn't matter now. So happy to do a rematch. Otherwise, I'll post a new challenge in the lobby. While we're on this view, we might as well play another game of capahouse. So with the 10x8 display.
Ready.
And I couldn't even tell whether this is the same position we had before. Because it was just so random to my eyes. So perhaps I'm going to castle more quickly this time and just start with or I3 rather. And just tuck the king away and make a fortress. So this game does tend to be a lot slower than typical Crazy House or crazyhouse960. I guess he's trying to build a pawn chain here, so I'll just go b4. Yeah, so even though there are the same number of rows as regular chess and Crazy House, the pieces just somehow seem to be further away from each other. So this long diagonal pointing to the Archbishop on h1. Perhaps this time just get this piece out of the way and go Archbishop to j3. So there is an unprotected pawn here on h7, but yeah, easily covered via knight to j6. So I just want to develop the bishop and castle, this time without dropping the pawn for free on g2, which I missed last game. So I probably should just be playing move like pawn to f3. I can throw in this move if I like. So Archbishop to I5, and I don't think there are too many defenses except for knight to... Oh, there's also a possible trade with Archbishop to j6. And if I really want to, I could steal a pawn here on... Oh no, I can't. Not this way. So knight to j6. We'll just leave this one here and get on with something else. I wonder if there's any merit in taking this one and then sticking a pawn back on f6. So take. Or actually this will be a useful move because it threatens Archbishop takes on j6 and then the queen is opened up too. So assuming he'll go bishop to I7, and then that could make this move more useful because no, I'm not so sure. So it's probably something you want to think about a bit more, but I'm just going to rush into it anyway, just for fun. So yeah, capturing this way first, and maybe a trade immediately. Although once I played f3, the Archbishop here is defended, so I can start with pawn at f6. Actually, this does look really good. So his Archbishop, you notice, is pinned along this diagonal. So his bishop is blocked out. Take here
Check.
with check. Probably just bishop at h6. And is there any point to my play so far? Or if I just wasted a piece? So I really need a pawn for g7 without sacking a queen. That's a bit too much. Anyway, I can steal a pawn anywhere on the board. Otherwise sack a queen this way, bishop here. Yeah, that's also a bit too much. Yeah, perhaps I just have to tuck my tail between my legs and back off. Anything else? Bishop takes allows knight takes, and then knight covers here. And the Chancellor also covers e7. That's not so good either. Yeah, I'm even thinking about the move knight to i3. The main concern is not allowing counterplay, but I think the bishop is really useful for g7. And also when the knight comes in, it's easier to pick off a pawn via h7 or j7. So he's defending with Archbishop at h8. Let's see. Yeah, that is a very important pawn to protect. If that falls, then my whole opening idea just collapses. So he hasn't gone and accepted the queen sacrifice. Not yet, anyway. Alright, how do I defend the pawn? This is about the only piece in hand that I can use. I could back off, queen to h4, but then bishop to g5 looks very strong for black. What else? Yeah, sacking a queen I don't think gets anywhere at the moment. Any other ideas? Yeah, so I'm going to back off for the moment, and I'm actually hoping for bishop to g5. Because it looks like it's just going to win the pawn, but I'm going to throw in some check via Archbishop to i5. And then he's got to be careful, because if he allows the Archbishop to come in to h7, or no, he's attacking this way. Okay. I'd really like to play an extended pawn move all the way up to e5 and defend the other pawn. Otherwise, what about this way? Check, take there, pawn check, queen takes, king takes. What do I have? Yeah, I just can't quite see how that's working. It's very close to working. Not quite. Yeah, there's moves like bishop takes e6 to consider. Doing with this piece in hand? Not a lot. I could stick it on i8. Sometimes it's good just to click the piece to see, because you forget moves like Archbishop at i8. It does threaten mate in 1, but I assume his response is knight takes here, and then what? Even Archbishop takes defense here. Queen takes, knight takes. So other ideas, stick this piece somewhere in the corner out of the way, or on c3. Yeah, I might just do that. Because I thought he could answer bishop takes e6, grabbing a pawn with just knight takes f6, and then he's totally fine. I still would like time to play a move like knight to i5 and go for checkmate here. What are we expecting? Bishop takes d2 may be a problem. Bishop takes d2, double bishops on the diagonal, only defended once. No, he's gone rook to g6. So I'm still desperate for a pawn on either square here. What about bishop takes e6 now? Because I don't see any other way to defend here. There's also knight g5. Take. We'll start with bishop takes e6. Knight takes. Where's the follow-up? It's a big mess. I'm going to start with knight knight 8, knight i5. I miscall the squares all the time. I have a mosquito dancing around the microphone. So take with check. No, so he's gone knight takes f6. Just a matter of which piece I want to sacrifice. I'll probably end up sacrificing both of them. So I do want to play knight takes h7 check. So I wonder which way he's going to take first. No, he's gone this way. Bishop takes, what was that, a knight? Because I still don't have that piece that I want. So I've got to watch out down here in case I trade a heavy piece. So take, bishop takes. Taking on f8 does not come with check, and I get mated on e1. Yeah, that is a big problem. Yeah, I don't see an obvious move. Maybe I should just trade this. But then I don't see a follow-up to stop mate in one. I mean, I can stop the mate. I'm just losing a lot of material. But yeah,
check.
I just don't see a decent move otherwise. So I could castling. There's a mate after he takes here. There's a mate threat. Would like time to take this. It's just unfortunate. There's now a mate in one threat. And if I castle, there is still a mate in one threat with Archbishop at j3. Yeah, apart from that, I'd really like to save this piece and defend the square e1 at the same time, but I just don't see any way to do it. What about pawn here? And then just bishop takes. Knight f2. It's a very ugly looking move, knight f2. No, I'm stopped. I don't have any reasonable move. e3. Just take this one back. So he's picking up some material. The king may be safe in the short term, but let's do a quick count. No, he hasn't taken it. That's a surprise. So I can move the bishop like a knight, maybe up to b5 and then come back via d3. So I thought he would just take immediately. I didn't see what was wrong with winning material. A bishop for an archbishop is a very good trade for black, considering the black king is so safe. And this is a funny piece because it can suddenly switch colors. Yeah, so going for knight at f2, I mean, I just have to allow it. I don't have any choice. Yeah, I've got to allow knight at f2. He doesn't have any fairy pieces. So
Check.
what does this do? Oh, that's a long distance fork. At least the king is very safe. Just put the bishop on and defend. Yeah, just put the bishop on and defend. I don't see any other ways. Okay. So perhaps cover the square h2. And again, if I castle, if it's legal, this is a mate in one threat here. So what about putting this funny looking thing on the board somewhere to cover f2? Even this one is a defensive move. Yeah, so I've got this piece covering the square on e2 in case he wanted to sack. The king is safe, but the problem is this: after this very long distance fork, he's picked up some material. Let's see if we can count. So I'm a queen down. What do I have for a queen? Actually, I'm just a queen and a pawn down for nothing, if I've counted correctly. So pawn at, he wants to put that funny piece on d2, archbishop maybe. Yeah, maybe it's time to castle, but I don't want to allow this to be taken totally for free. Take once. Yeah, I know I can put something here, but the king can at least escape via... Well, now I can castle. Yeah, because the archbishop covers the square on i3. So, well, hoping to take back the pawn eventually, but we'll see if he just defends with something at d4. If he wants some more pawns, he can always sack this one anytime. Maybe he just wants to take over all my squares here, like d2 and e2. Yeah, moving the knight certainly does help to clear the back row. So black looks like has a huge advantage, so I'll give him more time. Huge material advantage, has had a very safe king for a long time. And playing a defensive move, just covering the pawn on e3. So it's about time to move this funny looking piece. I don't know whether, is it a good trade, a queen for a chancellor? Maybe I should be playing c4 instead. Viramus says, is this Lichess? Well, it looks a lot like Lichess, but no, I don't think Lichess is going to have these funny variants anytime soon. And this is a website called Pychess. You can see it down the bottom. And if you just type in the URL, you go straight to the lobby where you can access all the variants. There's some options to watch the TV, look at the players list, the rating list. So it's obviously some sort of a clone of Lichess with some extra variants. Any immediate threats with this move? Maybe there's some funny queen sack and gaining access to J2. I don't quite see it working though. So should we just defend with something at F4? I was even considering knight at F4. Yeah, I mean the obvious move is of course pawn at F4, but just to put the question to the rook, because I may want to put the rook back on I8 if I have the opportunity. And this is a very useful defensive piece covering. In case he wants to sack the queen, then knight at J3 could have possibly been a good response. Ooh, didn't see this one coming. But I'm reasonably happy to trade this knight because I wanted to move it anyway. So I'm going to go knight takes without thinking. And knight takes rook, but then archbishop takes back. Maybe I should play a defensive move first, like knight h3. Pawn h4 is also possible. But yeah, I like this one. Now, I've got to make sure I don't fall for any more mates in one, like I did last game. So I have these squares well covered with the knight drops. And I mean the idea was eventually to trade for the rook and stick it back here. I think it's still quite a reasonable idea. I'm expecting the archbishop to take and then to potentially threaten in all directions here. So this is the only piece stopping the mate. And I could either move it and hope for trade or just stick the rook back immediately on I8. I think it's okay. And what about this piece here? It's a valuable piece, but it just takes a bit of a long time if you move it like a knight, and you know, this way, and so on. Otherwise, it's not doing a lot because I have a lot of heavies already guarding the back row. So one idea potentially to go pawn at I7 and make him trade one of the big pieces for the rook. Pawn at D2. I thought he was trying to take over my second rank, but as I said, I do have a lot of pieces covering the first rank, so I can just move this one away, and then it looks like I'm threatening both pawns at once. Ah, what? So he wants to play pawn at E2 perhaps? Can I just take this one? Just watch out for this hawk firing down. Oh, sorry about the time. Firing down on B1. Maybe this way is slightly safer. Let's try to work it out. I'm going to go this way. Well, it's closer to the king, that's my main reasoning. Yep, so just trading two rooks, a rook for two pawns. Pretty decent trade. I'm actually reasonably happy with my position now, because I still have ideas of pawn at I7. I've cleared away a lot of his pieces pointing in the direction of the white king. Yeah, in particular these pieces here are very good defenders. So now there is a threat to take on J3. So there are a number of defenses I see, like bishop at I4. I'm going to start with this one, and I could always trade knights here first if I feel like doing it that way. I also have an extra piece now defending on H3. But it seems like this is his attempt to break through. So pawn to H5. I wonder if it's a good idea to play pawn at I7 in response. Take on G4. What about trading knights first? It's a difficult decision. There's a lot of options. Ah, no. That was a slip. Okay.
Check.
But if he wants to... Yeah, right. Didn't realize I had the pawn in hand. Was it? Oh, it's click move as well, double click move. I'm not used to that because I don't have that activated on Chess. The double click move. So now it's a bit harder to attack. Alright, I'm going to get desperate and go pawn at h7 and then knight at i5. So this is the idea. May not work out very well because I'm going to need more than just pawns in hand. He's gone back. Yeah, how do I initiate some more trades? Pawn at f7, he's just going to jump like a knight. Although I could maybe grab the pawn on j7. Alright, so do I take here or maybe there's a useful pawn drop somewhere? No, this looks good because there are many attacking opportunities. Maybe pawn at f6 next and make him trade one of these two pieces off. So I think he might cover this maybe with a pawn. No, probably just pawn at h6 without thinking too much. So he may move this one like a knight. For instance, knight to g6. Archbishop to g6 rather. But then knight knight i5 is a fork. Unless I have a better move, of course, like knight takes here and then pawn at h7. Could even start with pawn at h7. There's many ways to do this.
Check.
So if queen takes, there's a bishop at h6. If king takes, what do we have? Can I make use of these fairy pieces? Not really at the moment. There's a big hole on f6. How to make use of it? Perhaps just put the bishop in here for now. And oh, I didn't mean to leave the knight hanging. I could have just played knight i5. Well, that was the idea I had before. But I think I'm going to have to go a bit wild here to justify sacking a knight like this, or blundering a knight like this. So he seems to be avoiding all the trades. And I don't want to give away all my defenders just for pawns if it doesn't really achieve much. So looking at, what about e4? Trying to open the f file this way, or even just taking here and putting the knight back. That was the original idea in the first place. Oh, sorry again. Alright, where are we up to? So he's gone queen j to i8. Queen j to i8. And although it looks like a good knight, I think I should take this because it's a more effective piece. So what to do with the Archbishop in hand? I really do want to trade some more pieces, but again the problem is I may be giving away all my defenders if take this one. Rook takes, queen takes. Yeah, it's certainly worth a look. Maybe I should be playing e4, so that opens up the possibility of Archbishop takes on c7. Now that his Chancellor has stepped away from the c-file. This is not such a good piece at the moment where it's positioned. It will be much more useful here. So yeah, having to trade the bishop for the archbishop. It's a good idea. I may actually allow the trade because I think for me the more trades that happen the better, even if they're bad trades for me because his king is more exposed. Oh, wasn't expecting that one. Just pawn
Check.
f6, h6 check. Try and find a way to pick up this one, if at all possible. So archbishop at I5 would check. I'm looking at, and I could even move this one out of the way if I think it's a good idea. Or oh, so many options.
Check.
And looks awfully close. Is it a mate?
Check.
So these pieces defending each other. He's safe on h8 for the moment. Hope I didn't miss a mate in one last move. Maybe I did.
Check.
Alright, another check. He's going to come this way. And is that a mate in one? So archbishop I to g5. It does look like a mate in one because then using like a bishop, all the pieces here defending each other, covering the square g8, and a check to finish. So I just wonder, was archbishop here better? Oh no, then you can step back to the corner. Or maybe it's a similar mate. Oh no, I don't quite see it. No, the way I did it was fine. GG's Carl. JarlCarl. So that game, I think black had a huge advantage when you played queen at J5 check and then picked up the archbishop for free. And maybe you could have found a way to be a bit more aggressive because the archbishop at I7, I didn't think your king at that point was in any danger at all. But yeah, a lot of material ahead. I think I was down a queen and a pawn for nothing. So let's just come back to the lobby and we'll see if anybody else is around. Now I haven't had any games of S-House today and I would like to try a couple of those. So what I'm going to do is to seek a game of S-House in the lobby. And we'll see if the ratings appear on the capahouse. Where's capahouse? So we just had a couple of games. There we go, capahouse. And oh, this page just fits in nicely with the 10x8 board, but I normally switch the display when I'm playing a game. So there we go, Mugwort and Jarl, the first players to play capahouse rated 960. And it is actually a separate independent variant in itself as opposed to capahouse without the 960. And of course there's Capablanca Chess, which a few players have tried, the rated version. So just back to the lobby. I might end the stream with a couple of games of S-House. And again, if anybody is here, if anybody's watching, feel free to click on the link in the lobby up the top. And all you need to do is to type, sorry I don't have the Pychess down the bottom. I wonder if I can add that on the stream. Let's try it out. So add text, add existing, and there it is. And we'll just put that down the bottom. And there we go. And all right. So if you type in the URL down the bottom left, and all you need to do is just click on the link, or if you create a game and then just go S-House Casual if you're on an anonymous account, a guest account, or it's very easy to link your Lichess profile and go log in. If you're logged in on Lichess, then you can just authorize Pychess to read your Lichess login details. And to make an account here, very simple, only takes a few clicks. And if anyone wants to play a game of S-House, so this combines the new pieces, this time called the hawk and the elephant. And you can see these on the right hand side. This is in the 3D version of the game, using real life pieces. And I don't think S-House has the option to play 960. And I'm sure there's a good reason for that. I just can't think what it is at the moment. But S-House is a really funny game because you have all these extra defensive resources. So when you move a piece from the first rank, every time you do it with every piece on the first rank, you have the option, if you so choose, to replace any piece in hand and put it back on the first rank, as well as making your move with the piece on the first rank. So it sounds a bit of a tongue twister, a bit of a mess, but you have to play it a few times to really understand what's going on. So yeah, Jarl is saying that the reason for no S-House 960 might be to do with programming, more with any innate problems with the game, because yeah, it somehow has to work out the castling rules and also the pieces that move on the first turn, and then when you can replace them and when you can't. And the rules are a little bit hard to understand or hard to explain without demonstrating on a real board. So perhaps what I might do, just for the purposes of demonstrating on the stream, I'm just going to play with the machine. What I'm going to do is to play it on a really weak level, like maybe level 3, and just go S-House 5+5, and just testing the layout as well. So the computer, you can see, has chosen to drop hawk at E5 on the first move, and you do have these fairy pieces as an option to drop on any empty square right from move 1, which makes this game especially unique. I might go hawk at F6, just making sure there's no funny smothered mates. But no, this is not a straight moving piece, it's only a diagonal moving piece. So there's already some threat you can see on C7 with both pieces lining up here. Possible defenses include knight to C6, or elephant at C6, or just pawn to D6. Looks perfectly reasonable to me.
Check.
So take check, knight takes back. And I have the option, you can see here, to replace not the piece I just captured, which is the hawk, but the elephant, which I had at the start, on G8 if I want to. But I'm going to keep the elephant, so I'm going to click the empty circle above, and that way I'm just making the move knight takes hawk on F6 and choosing not to replace a piece. So if I choose to move the knight back and then move it again, it's not going to allow me to replace the piece on G8 like it did the first time. It's only a one chance only, and I believe it happens with every piece. I'm just not sure about the king. So from memory it is including the king as well, so it's all 8 pieces, but please correct me if I'm mistaken. So he's gone elephant C4. Doesn't seem like any purpose to this move. Is he just making random moves? I don't know, just go E5 and D5 and push his elephant away.
Check.
Check, what does that do? I really don't understand many of its moves. Just pawn C6. He's going to sack on some way. Sack on, oh no, hang on, that's not a sack. We could have just taken this for check. Oops. Yeah, I think I stuffed up big time. So here is an example. I'm going to play bishop E6 and then replace an elephant, just to help cover the square C7 a little bit more. And bishop D6. Could even choose to replace the hawk, but I'm going to save the hawk in hand. He's gone elephant to G5. I think it's a lot easier to say that the piece name's hawk elephant compared to Archbishop and Chancellor. So a bit of a target here with a check. And I wonder if it's safe to castle. Probably not. I should be just going hawk at H6. There we go.
check,
Oh, hang on. Oops, I've allowed bishop takes h6. That was another stuff up. The only piece that can recapture it now is the pawn. Yep, and that's not a mate in one threat, but is a deadly. It's a deadly move. Hawk at g7 check. But I suppose I have king d7 still defending all the pieces here. So, alright, I will recapture. No, he's gone pawn at g7. That's a bit of a surprise. G8. I definitely do not want to replace a piece on h8. So double hawks on the diagonal, bit of a target here. Maybe pawn to e5. There's also more defensive moves like knight bd7 or bishop at e7. I could trade two bishops for a hawk, perhaps. Well, I'm just going to defend for now with bishop at e7. Oh, what? I didn't even see the pawn hanging. Oh dear. A lot of blunders. I thought that was a bishop on c8. But now he's threatening pawn at f7 checkmate. And this may not easily be defendable. At least there's no pin along the e-file. Yeah, but it looks like the main defense is an elephant, which is a bit unfortunate. Yeah, because if I take this, I don't get the option to replace the elephant on g8. That is extremely unfortunate. So, yeah, I really don't see any good moves here. Yeah, I'm going to go queen d7 and replace the elephant just to cover the square. Oh dear. Bishop takes f6. Bishop takes g8. I'm still not fully grasping all of its moves. I don't quite understand what it's doing. Can I just go bishop? Yeah, but there's nobody covering f6. So queen takes maybe forced. And there's still the bishop covering the hawk on h6. Not sure whether I really have time to move the queen out of the way. Perhaps this piece should come up because it's not doing much on c8 at the moment. Yeah, just hawk it. Elephant to e7. He's dropped a rook. That doesn't seem so dangerous. Just pawn at g6. Bishop g5. Alright, so here an option to trade the queen for the hawk. And find a way to cover the square on f8. Even running away this way via d7 and c8 looks pretty decent. Other moves may include hawk at h5. I don't like allowing the bishop trade though, because he's just going to replace a new bishop on g5. I'm also not sure about trading here and then allowing take. Elephant takes. Yeah, alright, I'm going to do it. No, he's gone that way. So bishop at f6. Okay, surprise. Pawn d4 becomes an option. Take, queen takes. Okay, let's see. Pawn at h6. All these funny intermediate moves that I don't see. Alright, let's test out the computer. Bishop takes g7. Just let him take back on c3, no? Oh, what's this? Oh, that's very nasty. Because what he's doing is cutting off the square d7. So he's going to take back this way. Oh, that is very sneaky. And then I have nobody... Oh, actually, king f8 is still possible. King f8 even possible now, but then there's knight takes h7. Alright, let's see if I can survive this. Oh, I didn't see that one. I have the option to replace. What about knight at?
Check.
I get all the squares covered? I'm really not sure.
Check.
Pawn at.
Check.
Uh-oh. I have to play king f7.
Check.
Ooh. Elephant takes.
Check.
I still don't understand all of its moves. But yeah, I can't really allow queen takes g8. Uh-oh, uh-oh, uh-oh. The engine is certainly a dirty sex hitter. Knight f6, not possible. Well, maybe hawk. Ah, there we go again. Trying to drag the piece and it click the text instead.
Check.
I've completely lost track of what's going on.
Check.
What? Well, I got nobody covering that
Check.
square. Ah. I gotta come back. Yeah, it's made in one.
Check.
No.
Check.
Okay, draw. I'll be happy with a draw.
Check.
What is it doing? Knight takes, I suppose. Elephant takes is also possible. Isn't it just elephant?
Shouse.
Ah, hawk. So two hawks a knight move away from each other. And there's some nice patterns with the new pieces that the computer was using there. So this is just a demonstration of S-House. And I'm going to keep playing until I win a game against the computer, and then we'll finish. So I'm going to go elephant at h5. Oh, what? Always got to watch out for sneaky mates if he's got a rook lined up. A rook moving piece, a flat moving piece lined up on the e-file against the king. So yeah, c3 would be a helpmate with hawk at d3. So just go knight at c3. What's the problem? No, I don't see the problem. Alright. Yeah, I mean that's a very hard move to anticipate. Meeting knight takes elephant where knight takes hawk. Knight takes elephant rather, getting the pieces all mixed up. So what else? There's a lot of legal moves. Maybe the knight over here is misplaced. I'll just take this one. Okay. Now what? Just develop knight f3. No need to put a piece on g1. I don't think it's very useful. It's only if you're being faced with a fierce assault. So elephant at d5. Pawn g3 would be my d3 would be my natural response. Seems okay. Hawk at g4. Yeah, so based on the last game, it's always got these sneaky threats which I just keep missing. But I just don't understand the purpose of this move. So I want to attack it sideways, maybe elephant at h4. Knight back to f6. What about knight back to c3? Well, I still want to maintain some tension here. What can I do with the hawk? Hawk at g5? I don't know, it's a bit hard to evaluate. Okay, so knight f takes, hawk back on the board. Seems to be some sort of a threat on f2. I don't know how realistic it is. I'll just go pawn to e3, block it up. Ah, okay, yeah. Hawk takes queen. So I can't allow this capture here. Oh, what? So I could go king takes hawk. Is that okay? I could even replace an elephant. It might be useful now to replace an elephant back on the board. There we go. Keep the king safe. So an f2 is the target because the elephants don't defend f2. So I can't afford to take that one. So, what about leaving the knight there and going pawn takes f3? Oh, did he have knight at c3 and then pawn takes and then hawk takes c3 mate? Did he miss a mate in 2? I mean, I suppose I could go king d2. It's a bit of an ugly move to have to play though, king d2. Well, I guess it wasn't mate, but certainly pretty awkward with a king on d2. So hawk back to f6. The knight is unprotected. And it still seems like he's threatening this knight at c3. With the hawk coming in to mate if b takes. Can I cover both squares at the same time? Ooh. Yeah, no easy moves. No easy moves for white. Maybe I can actually answer. But then I would have to stop knight takes e4 check. So perhaps try and cover these 2 squares at the same time. If I can't do the alternative. Maybe hawk at f3? I don't know. I'm still a bit worried about knight at c3 check. So queen at a5, another one of these obscure moves which I don't understand. Bishop d2. I don't think I need to replace the knight on c1.
Check.
Oh no, forgot about that check. Okay. Oh, this is terrible. Because I need to move the bishop out of the way, but I can't. This is very awkward. I just have to go for the second, hope he doesn't have a mate. So threatening something at... yuck. There's no way I can play hawk takes d2. Take, hawk at c3 is a mate in 1. Yeah, my brain is pretty fried too, Jarl, I'm afraid to say. Yeah, I just can't cover this square enough times, so I have to make room, but that allows a promotion. Only other chance is knight d6 check.
Check.
Pawn at f7 check. I can't even move I keep thinking I can move the elephant here, check. Elephant to f4 check.
Check.
Queen to f6 replacing a knight. No, this is too hard to defend.
Check. Check.
Bishop at, yeah. Knight at g5 check. Takes bishop.
Check.
No, I have to take that one.
Check.
Oh.
Check.
Yeah, I'll
Check.
need it.
You lose.
Alright. No, I can't take a break until I win one game.
Ready.
Surprisingly strong on level 3. Now, I can't see what's wrong with hawk at f6, so I'm going to repeat that one again. And pawn d6.
Check.
Alright, so the
Check.
mistake I made last time was pawn at e5 at the to e5 at the wrong time and then d5. Just got to watch out for this lateral moving piece. So this time I had problems with pawn c6 last time. So what about another replacement? What about elephant at c6? Or maybe hawk at c6 just to try and break the pin and then trade here. Alright, so now my pieces have got a bit of freedom. Let me just play knight c6. Okay. I keep thinking that if I play bishop d7 the hawk's going to come in and take on b7, but I'll keep falling for tricks like that, but of course that's not possible. So bishop d7. Any need to break the pin at the moment? I'll just go e5. e3, bishop e7. And the idea is to castle. That's a way to break the pin. Okay, so here we have a very interesting option. If you castle in S house, then there are options to replace any of the pieces on either square where the king or the rook initially started. So perhaps a piece on e8. What about a hawk on e8? I still don't really see the point, so no, I'm not going to bother. Knight g5, again another one of these obscure moves I don't understand. Possibly his elephant wants to swing across all the way across the fourth rank like this. Maybe just attack the knight via elephant at g6. Knight comes back, alright, can we push e4? With the knight defending, okay, hawk at hawk back to c3, intending possibly to trade here, although that's not such a good trade for white it seems. What can we do with the hawk? Well, why aren't I taking this one? Knight e5. Okay. So this time we have a bit of a material advantage. Any target, a little bit of a target here on c2, but no easy way in. And only the elephant targeting the pawn on g2. So what's a useful multi-purpose move here? What about a setup for knight at e4? I'm not sure whether I want to allow the elephant to trade for two knights. Can I play pawn to d5? Is it safe? Yeah, I mean, I looked at this move briefly and then I thought, nah, you can't do that. I guess you can. I guess you can. Yeah. So perhaps elephant to g4. What about this? Gets rather complicated. Any other ways to save the knight on e5? Elephant to g5 just allows a move like pawn to f4. Maybe a good idea to provoke him to play pawn to f4 though. I think this one is just a little bit safer. Okay, I don't mind a trade of elephants. The hawk may be a little bit misplaced over here. Alright, so now I'm looking at squares like f3 and d3. Do I have any diagonal moving pieces? What about just bishop to f5? I don't think I need to replace a piece on c8. Okay, so targeting the loose bishop here on f5. I'm going to find a way to defend and attack at the same time. That's what I'm looking for. So also keeping an eye on the square d3. He seems to be adequately defending at the moment. What about elephant to g5? But then again, this pawn f4 move. I don't mind pawn at f4 though. Yeah, so f4 I can answer hawk at g3 check. b4, that's one of those funny computer moves I don't understand. I want to set up bishop takes by blocking out the elephant here. So I'm looking at some piece at e4. What would be the most useful piece? Does the knight have any purpose on f6? Not at the moment. What about just knight to e4? Bishop b2, okay. Always seems to be targeting a loose piece on every move, if it can. I really want to sax hit him on f2. And then I don't know, find some tricky discovery and then go bishop takes elephant here. Can't quite see it working at the moment. The bishop takes b4 was the idea, but do I want to allow this one? Maybe just bishop f6. Seems quite okay. Okay, so he's brought the hawk back to b3 and I still don't really understand what the idea is. I'm going to play a bit faster this time at the end. So I'm going to go queen. I'm going to go rook e8. It's always a useful move to put the rook on the e file. Okay, hawk to d4. So looking at, in particular, f5 as a weakness. Perhaps I should be bringing the bishop back. Or maybe hawk at d7. Queen d7 is an option. Ah, now I don't have hawk at g3. So I need a diagonal moving piece. How do we pick one up? This gets very tricky after moves like knight d3 check. Bishop takes hawk.
Check.
Let's make it a mess.
Check.
Hey, what's this? Can I take that? Queen takes looks pretty safe. Otherwise, hawk at g3 was the original idea. That's not a sorry, it is a diagonal moving piece. Hawk at f2 also
Check.
possible. Oh, he's replaced an elephant. What does the elephant do there? Doesn't do anything. Knight at g3 check. And takes this one, check. King f4 and hawk to e5. There we go, checkmate. So a little bit of succeeding on the computer where knight takes f2, and I didn't have any particular follow-up in mind, but just making it a mess. I think certainly on the lower levels of Theory Stockfish you can get away with doing things like that, just making the board a total mess. And yeah, S-House, I have to say I find it the most random of the variants, even without the 960 factor, because especially of the pieces just appearing on the first row, and it's very hard to anticipate, especially when you're running out of time and the computer just decides to put a piece randomly on the first row. So all the games are completely different. We started with crazyhouse-960 with JarlCarlander, and we had a few games of capahouse. So that's introducing the new pieces that you can see on the right hand side. Oh, did I leave it on this display before? Anyway, sorry about that. If you're still here, it's been a long stream, 3.5 hours. So we finished it with a few games of S-House just to demonstrate the website features. And finally, what I might do just to finish the stream is to go back to the lobby and to show you all the games that you can create. So the drop down menu here, we have the complete list including Makruk, which is one of those old games where the pawns only move one space. Cambodian chess, I have no idea what that is. Situyin placement, haven't played these variants before. Crazy House, normal Crazy House. Of course, most of these variants also give the option to play 960 as an extra bonus to randomize the game even more. Normal chess, if you're not happy with normal chess on Lichess or chess.com. Shogi, mini shogi, shangshi, which is Japanese and Chinese chess, mini shangshi. Capablanca, which is the so-called normal Capablanca chess. Also capahouse, which we played on the stream. Seirawan or S-chess combined with S-house. There's grand chess on a 10x10 board, grand house, and there's Gothic chess, which is, I believe, quite similar to Kappa chess, but I haven't seen it more than once or twice. And there's Shako, which I have absolutely no idea about. And maybe another time. But the variations, because I mainly stream Crazy House, similar to Crazy House, are of course 960 Crazy House, which we played a few games earlier, Kappa House and S House, and there are also Grand House and Goth House, which we may try at another time. So this has been lots of fun, and as always the link, or rather the website, is at the bottom left, pychess-variants.herokuapp.com. if you type that into the URL, and I'm sure you can work out how to log in or create an account, and it's very easy to do via your Lichess account. So special mention to GB Tami for developing this amazing variants website, and I'm not sure if there's anyone else that he would like me to name as co-developers. I'm not sure of the other people involved, but it's hugely appreciated for all of your efforts, GB Tami, and any co-developers that he may have. And hopefully this website can become a bit more popular with some more opponents in the ratings pool. And it does have a rating option now on all of the variants you can see here. So there are not many people in the rating pool so far, but I think you start with 1500, and of course I made a few blunders and I got flagged a couple of times. I have a low rating in crazyhouse960, but I'm happy to play anyone at any time. Just send me a message on Chess or chess.com if you see me on, or otherwise if you see me on this website Pychess, just chat in the channel on the left hand side of the screen, which is in the lobby just here. You can see on the left hand side. So thanks to everyone who followed us. A special thanks also to the raids from Pepelo and No Joke Chess, who are other streamers. And because obviously this website is not as well known as Chess, it's a little bit hard to promote streams like this. So thanks very much for the raids and for anyone who shared the link and shared the information. So I'm not sure when the next Crazy House stream is, but I was actually playing till very early hours of the morning bughouse with John Lee on chess.com. We played for about an hour or hour and a half. Had some pretty strong opponents, including Reza from Poland, and who else was playing? Can't remember at the moment, but some 2500s on chess.com. We had some very close games, exciting games. And we were just doing the chess chat via text message and buttons, even though I had the microphone. May have been a little late for him. He was interrupted with a baby crying. So, yeah, the Crazy House Team League, of course, is still ongoing. There's a couple of days to go before Christmas. And I believe the next big match is Board 1 GSVC versus Rapid Variants, and that's happening on Monday at 2 PM UTC. We'll try to stream that one if I'm awake in the early hours of the morning in Sydney. And there are still some Board 2 and Board 3 pairings who may not yet have arranged the times, and I'll be checking those closely. So the streams end up only being quite short on Chess if I'm only covering the mini matches, the 2-game mini matches. But always welcome to follow if you like, if you see me streaming on the main page. Otherwise, have a good weekend, everybody. It's Sunday afternoon here in Sydney. I'm off to have some lunch. So I'll see you soon. Thanks for watching.